Hi, folks. Welcome to Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. I am your co host, Mark, and this is my wonderful co host, Harry.
Hello.
And we are one idiot and another idiot who is now out of school and capable of podcasting regularly,
Yeah.
talking about things we have no idea what we're talking about. Welcome. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry. The delay has mainly been my fault. Harry's Crohn's have also been a really tough thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
We're really trying, but you know, I'll take the brunt of it. Harry's Crohn's, 25%, school, 75. So, you know what? Masi menos, whatever. Folks, welcome to the show. I'm joined by Harry,
Yes.
the artist formerly known as Harry.
Mm.
Harry,
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm about to ask you.
I think so.
What is the mass of the sun?
Oh fuck. Hold on.
I'm
I
kidding.
actually no
That
no
was
no
your
no
week.
no
No, no,
no.
no,
Hold
no,
on.
no. I put you on the spot. That was not fair of me.
Hold on. I have the fucking internet. Holy shit. 1.989 times 10 to the 30th power kilograms.
Oh, that's actually a little disappointing. I thought that'd be bigger.
uh um
Harry, Harry, how are
so
you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been a while. Um, you and I have not lost touch though. We have been in touch.
We have always been in touch.
Your phone is working now, so easier to contact you. Um,
This phone still fucking sucks. They gave me a refurbished phone,
okay.
so I'll be typing, and it'll be like, "Would you like to type with the Google keyboard or the Metro keyboard?" While I'm trying to type, and then it'll keep switching keyboards, or
Mm,
it just won't respond to what I'm doing, or anything of that sort. And it's really obnoxious.
yeah.
Really obnoxious. I was helping my dad delete all the bullshit that he gets on his phone from not turning his phone off when he puts it in his pocket.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's the Q7. It's
Okay.
a small uh average American penis size phone.
Yeah.
Erect, not this is
Mm-hmm.
grower, not shower territory, okay, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I I had to clasp it with two hands. It was like holding a baby bird in my hand.
Mm.
And I forgot how much I love small phones. I fucking hate big phones. In fact, I was at Best Buy about 10 years ago, and I saw one of the new Samsung S whatevers, 20 millions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 700 fucking dollar phone is the
Oh wow.
ideal phone that I want. Little parakeet sized phone that I could fit in my hand. Or
Yeah.
uh I could tell everyone that I bleach my asshole by buying the new Razer flip phone.
Wait, there's a new Razer flip phone?
Yep, well, that's it. You know what? I think we haven't taken this podcast to its truest potential. Truly idiots who don't know what they're talking about by making this a tech review podcast.
Oh
The
yeah.
new Razer is a flip phone with a foldable screen that is I was about to say in remembrance as if fucking the old Razer was just brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Um its namesake is the 2006 model, which was touted as the thinnest phone ever made, or at its time, the thinnest
Right.
phone ever. And everyone fucking had one except for me. And I'm fucking mad about it.
Right. I,
But yeah, Harry, I
yeah.
hijacked your week.
Oh, that's fine.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
We've
my
been
week.
keeping track.
We've been keeping track of each other. We know each other's locations at all times.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a Civil War correspondence.
yes.
My dearest, it has been many winters since I've last seen you. The, the Battle of Appomattox has been hard on my heart. I don't know. I just
um,
pulled Appomattox. I know it's the end of the fucking war. Don't fucking at me.
I have been busy at work. We are still down technicians. One of the technicians that started, just randomly stopped showing up to work. So what happened was, they came to work for about no, they came in for like a week, and then the following week, their child got sick of COVID,
Ooh.
and so they're like, "Hey, like, don't come to work because kid has COVID." Like, okay, cool. But they said, let's just keep in touch because we need to keep in touch. And literally as soon as they're like, okay, I'm not going to work today, neither my boss or our head HR uh, representative of the company could not get a hold of them. Still not for like a week, just not able to get a hold of them. And they're just
Oh,
like,
that's so good.
okay, well, I guess they're not working here anymore. So let's move on. So yeah, it's still only three of us. With that, and yeah, it's been kind of brutal, but I have
Kind
clocked
of.
kind of yeah, I have clocked in 100 hours of 2 weeks, uh, 2 paychecks in a row. We're gonna
Ooh.
aim for world record 3, but we'll see what happens. Um, yeah,
Don't
that
work
was
yourself to death, buddy.
yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just
You're gonna
um
retire by the time I'm like a year into my fucking career. So
yeah.
like,
It I
fucking
that
chill with that,
I
okay?
would- you know what, that would be fantastic if I could. But yeah. So work's been a little brutal. But not crazy where I just want to quit. And then that's it, man. Like I was hoping to do more stuff, but because of the consistent being, on call from work, I just haven't been able to commit
Yeah,
to a lot of things. So, but been chilling at home. Been playing Azure Lane still. It's my thing.
yeah.
Um
You've been playing something else, you fucking psychopath.
yeah. And yeah, I've been watching some animes. There's some movies I watched recently. Um on Netflix that I was like, "Oh, hey. Oh, I finally have seen When Harry Met Sally." I've never
Oh,
seen that movie and it has my name written all over it.
goddamn right it does.
So I finally watched that. It was cool. I mean, it was your cheesy 80s, 90s? I don't know when it came out. Whatever. I think 80s
I
movie.
think
Yeah.
1990.
Yeah, I think it was like 89, 90, one of those two.
God,
Um
who doesn't fucking love Billy Crystal?
dude, Billy Crystal from his side looks exactly like Beetlejuice. I can always forget his name.
Michael Keaton? Yeah,
Michael
he's got like
Keaton.
a Michael Keaton thing a little bit. The nose is
Yeah. Like
a little different, but
when you
yeah,
when
he's
you
got
see,
the sloping forehead.
when you see him like directly, he doesn't look like Michael Keaton. But like if you see him on the side, like a certain angle, I'm like, dude, is that Michael Keaton?
He looks like Michael Keaton's funnier brother, and Michael Keaton's
Hmm,
pretty fucking funny.
this is true. This is true. Also, Mike Wazowski. I, d- I
God,
didn't. I had no
just
clue. I had no clue.
I was just fucking watching that too.
It's a
I
good movie.
love fucking old Pixar.
Oh
Oh
yeah, old
god.
Pixar was great.
I mean, Pixar is still good, but like
Yeah.
I think that that prestige has kind of definitely worn off.
Yes, I'll second that for sure.
I was also talking with Stace about like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I really miss those stupid, absolutely stupid bloopers that like they just made after every movie.
Oh yeah, like it feels
They're
like an
so
actual
good,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're great.
And it's like it was indicative of like a smaller Pixar. Like I don't mean to romanticize
No,
like
that's good.
I do this with like studios in the 90s where it's like, man,
Mm-hmm.
these
Mm-hmm.
guys were just making art left and right. No, no, no. Like I get like it was still a company and they still fucking people got let go and fucking
Yeah.
Game of Thrones happening all this. But like it definitely gave the impression that it was a smaller group, a smaller uh like consolidated group of people who are making these choices. Like I love
Yeah.
some of the creative choices that they're making now. Like I going red, I think is fucking amazing.
Mm.
I haven't seen Soul, but I actually really, really, really want to catch it. But
Okay.
like just in terms of the comedy, in terms of the art style, I think the art style is really, really recognizable in the more older Pixar era. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Billy Crystal, fucking When Harry Met
Billy.
Sally.
Yeah,
I'll have what
Billy.
she's having.
Yeah, I found out where that line came from. I was unaware.
Come on, Harry.
Yeah,
Come
I
on.
mean, pretty bad. Yeah, but I learned it. Let's see what else.
Nice.
That's it, man. Just chugging along in this world.
I feel it. I really feel it. Nothing makes you feel like a piece of shit
Mm-hmm.
more than when you're at a new job and there's all this fucking complicated ass shit that they're having you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going on with me. Like, I am not, I'm realizing the fucking sharpest tool in the shed, or at least this job makes me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I'm on a computer and I'm fucking learning Excel for the first fucking time, by the way. Learning
Yeah.
Excel, I'm learning all this extra fucking shit related to shipping. And like my mind cannot just fucking sop this shit up. I could do this shit all day with like history classes and fucking ASL and all this other shit. But like for
Yeah.
some fucking reason, oh, go on to this proprietary site. Okay. Yeah, do this. Okay. Yeah, I need you to type that. Okay. Now, I just need you to do that on your own, okay? Uh uh yeah. It's I'm definitely a repetition kind of guy,
Yeah.
which I've always known, but just how much repetition I didn't realize until
Mm.
now. So, yeah. Uh first first big boy job. Yeah, dealing
I
with
feel.
numbers.
Yeah.
And it's fucking man, that was school. Whoo! I'm gonna have to do that again in a couple months. Anyway, so there's that.
Yes.
Uh, so my self-esteem is plummeting every day. I have, however,
Mm.
reached the T minus 20 pages mark
Oh,
for a Clash of or a Storm of Swords.
nice.
Yes. Uh, Joffrey has been poisoned.
Oh, deserves it.
Oberyn's head has been yeah. Oberyn's head has been caved in by the mountain.
Oof.
Arya has left the Hound to die.
Mm.
He did not have a tussle with Brienne.
Oh,
He
really?
got into a fight. So you remember when we were watching Game of Thrones season 4,
Yeah.
when we first started watching Game of Thrones together,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the first episode of I think season 4 or 5, 4 was Arya with the Hound, and they go to the inn,
Yes.
and there was that line that we fucking love. If one more word comes out of your cunt fucking mouth, I'm gonna have to eat all the chickens in here.
Yes. So good.
Sadly, that's not in the book,
Oof.
but that is at the end of this book. That's the last Arya chapter
Okay.
when he gets into that bar fight and he's injured and he gets a fever and is
Oh,
incapable of progressing any farther, and Arya leaves him there. So
interesting.
what what ends up happening at the end of the third book and should be happening at the end of the fourth season is kind of like a throwaway fight scene in the beginning of the fourth season.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. It really is fascinating reading the book and seeing some of like the choices that they made in terms of pacing.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck did John do for all of season 4? Because season 3, he halfway through the book, mind you, half fucking
Right.
way through the book. That's like 460 pages.
Okay.
He cuts his fucking losses with the wildlings and flees to the to Castle Black. And mind you, that's the end of fucking season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of his chapters are uh prepping for battle, going to battle, losing Egret, um and then that is a completely separate battle from the
Hmm.
siege of the wall siege. There's uh Egret's attack and trying to futz with the Night's Watch in their sleep,
Yeah.
which John warns him about. It becomes a fight, and then it becomes an entirely different fight, uh, defending against Mance Raider at the wall or
Okay.
north of the wall, and then him becoming the fucking Lord Commander. I just finished that fucking chapter, so I'm
Okay.
thinking like, what the fuck did he do in the fourth season? Like, I can't fucking remember. How the fuck did they pad that shit? But anyway, I'm super excited. Um, the fucking Tyrion speech and the
Mm-hmm.
Tyrion Tywin bit, I do think is better in the show. Like the
Okay.
amount of catharsis, I think works a little better. It's played more, I think, not jokingly, but is sardonic the right word?
Sardonic.
Uh, let's find out. Let's Google it. I'm gonna pretend I didn't. Grimly mocking or cynical. Yeah, the um the Tywin shooting on the toilet bit, I think,
Yes.
is more sardonic, grimly comical or cynical, instead of like cathartic as it is in the show. Um,
Hmm.
he has a very bad and painful falling out with Jamie that is not in the show.
Oh, okay.
Uh, in the show, Jamie's like, "I opened the cell. I love you. I'll never see you again. Bye."
Yeah.
Uh, this is where we part ways. But in the book, he's like, I'm opening your cell. I love you. I'll probably never see you again. Oh, by the way, the woman that you fell in love with as a kid, who father had like his entire barrack sexually assault and framed the whole thing as like she's a whore to like make you lose your virginity in like a kind way. Yeah, no, she really did love you. And because of how it was framed, you threw away the love of your life, and I'm sorry for that. And he's like, "Fuck you. I'm taking the blame for killing Joffrey, even though I didn't do it. And I want you to know that because if I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you."
Damn.
Yeah. So, in some interviews, it's pretty interesting because George R. R. Martin calls Tyrion the villain.
Oh.
There's something like paraphrasing, like, I see a lot of myself in Tyrion. What can I say? It's pretty cool to be the bad guy. Or so,
Mm.
I'm probably misquoting, but like I really think he's going to be the one of the I'm going to bring it all crashing down types. Because in
Yes.
the show, his character is so neutered after the fourth season. He's this like sad
Yeah.
little drunk who makes like the stupidest, not even like character development stupid or like plot continuing stupid. It's just like stupid for the sake of it just being stupid.
Right, right.
That's where you could tell like the other writers instead of George R. R. Martin were not like the lead guys coming up with like what he was doing as a character. But
Yeah.
a lot of people have theorized that like he's going to be a bad guy, and I really like that. I really like this guy who you want to root for, and he's kind of just ends up being a little overcome with hate
Yeah.
for years and years and years of torment. There's a really great I've mentioned it before. His name's Macabre Storytelling,
Mm.
and he's the only guy who does who did a fan rewrite that I actually really fucking enjoyed, where
Okay.
he talks about he read the books. He seems to have some kind of background in maybe not screenwriting, but like storytelling or like basic thematic like bullshit. And he pretty much has rewrites for almost all of the main characters within the context of the show. It's not he does everything conceivably possible not to be like in the books this
Right.
is yada yada. He makes a comparison and does a lot of preambling with how the books portray the character versus how they're portrayed in the show. But he does a lot to make sure that like what I'm rewriting is the show. I'm not trying to incorporate everything from the books. I'm trying to show like what a better version of the later half of Game of Thrones would be as the
Okay.
show.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so that's pretty interesting. I have yeah, 2 chapters left. I have the epilogue and I have the Sansa chapter. And yeah, I'm really liking it. I'm gonna take a fucking long ass break and read some fucking historical dry ass shit before I get to another fucking Game of Thrones book. But I'm loving it. Fuck. Now that I've actually had time, I'm starting to binge watch a couple things with Stace and with
Yeah.
Dad. So Dad and I are getting into fucking Strange New Worlds, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh man, we'll get to that in a little bit, but like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, it's good. We've been doing Stranger Things. Haven't finished it yet. Next week, and we can talk about it, or like whenever you get caught up or decide you want to watch any of it, we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's about it for like shows. Oh, and fucking I need to stop getting ahead of myself, Harry.
Yeah.
I need to stop.
Oh.
I need to just stop. Okay.
Okay.
So I had a plan to paint my model, the Razor Crest,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I was going to do a normal paint job. I wasn't going to do any bells and whistles. I was going to go in, was going to do it. It was going to be done. And then,
And then.
lo and behold,
Uh-huh.
I saw a tutorial
Oh.
on a technique
Yeah.
that like I shouldn't have done.
Oh.
It was kind of like Aang firebending for the first time and then
Oh yeah.
injuring Katara and then
Yeah.
vowing never to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I attempted to salt chip my model.
Ooh.
Yeah. Harry, this did
Yeah.
not turn out good.
Yeah.
Salt chipping, for
Uh-huh.
anyone who doesn't know,
Please.
is you first of all, you coat your model in a finish, right? Like you
Hmm.
would protect your like a wood fin or like not a wood finish, but how you would protect your like your furniture, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So you do that for your models, and then you lightly coat your model in a little bit of water, a misty bit of water,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take salt and uh, you salt bay it over your model, and you can do this in patchy areas and so on and so forth, just as long as it doesn't create much of a pattern. And then you paint over the salt, and
Okay.
then you brush the salt off, and it creates a very nice effect depending on if you're using a darker color underneath. It creates a
Okay.
very layered, textured look, and it's very pretty. The problem is I did too much of that.
Ah.
So what I ended up with was a big, salty Razor Crest.
Mm.
So instead of just painting it, oh, here's a little dinging, here's a little scuff mark for some, oh, it was battle damaged. No, I it was like going up to a child, Harry. It was
Uh-huh.
like going up
Child.
to a 5-year-old who's painting little fucking stick figures, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like he's got daddy with the fucking with the briefcase, and then mommy's best friend who's always in the attic somewhere, the upper room, and they're always making a commotion. Those kinds of stick figures. And then fucking
Mm.
Leonardo da Vinci comes here and says, no, you should try to draw the Vitruvian Man while you're at it too.
Mm.
And that's what happened to me. And now
Okay.
I'm here on a podcast talking about how I ruined a perfectly easy option to fully paint and be good of my model.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, I have brushed most of the salt off,
Okay.
and I will commence with a lighter coat of a chrome, and I will finish it, and then I will climb up to the roof of my building,
Mm.
and I will hurdle the model into
Mm.
the abyss, and I will
Okay.
walk back into my room and sleep.
Awesome. I know exactly where that abyss is at.
Yes. And then I will 5-year-old paint everything I have for the rest of my life.
Sounds fair.
And that is that. So, Harry, what do you want to talk about?
We have a slew of things that we can talk about.
A
Um,
slew, a heap of peck.
yeah. You did mention very briefly, Strange New Worlds. This is,
Harry,
yeah,
Harry.
yeah,
Oh boy.
yes.
Harry, I haven't been excited
Mm-hmm.
to watch a Star Trek show the way I have for this show literally since the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
What show was that?
This was when Star Trek Enterprise was getting really fucking good.
Okay.
So, what I mean by that, and I will literally spend only 30 seconds on this,
Yeah.
is Star Trek Enterprise is regarded as the weakest, at the time, weakest Star Trek show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's fairly true for the first two seasons. The third season and the fourth season is really when it starts to hit its stride, and then they canceled it. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The third season and the fourth season, they committed to 3 episode arcs. So like the first
Ah,
episode is
okay.
like, oh no, we've discovered this thing. The second episode, oh no, there's a heightened stakes, and the third one is the climax, and so on and so forth.
Right, right.
So, and this is when shows were like 25 episodes, 24, 26 episodes apiece. So
Mm,
that is when I was most hyped, when it was getting really fucking good.
okay.
Um, Star Trek Discovery is enjoyable. It really wants to get somewhere without really putting in. That's not fair. It hasn't quite found its footing, in my opinion, with how it wants to deliver like dramatic uh, information or tonal, like it's just not quite. I think for me, what I enjoy about Star Trek, I love the characters. I love some of the boundaries that they try pushing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the premise, even if I don't think it's well executed. Um, but I hate the pacing. I really
Oh,
do.
okay.
I've mentioned this before where it's like
Yeah.
I really hate that they didn't take the time to introduce any of the bridge crew, and now we're supposed to give them more screen time, and it feels a little too late. I think I mentioned this when I was reviewing the fourth season I think 2 months ago.
Yes.
Um, so it's a little disappointing. I still enjoy it. I like some of the premises. I like some of the arcs. I like a lot of the characters, but I largely feel as though the series keeps trying to find its footing, and it's not quite working for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek Picard was ultimately disappointing for me. Uh, the first season, even if it was disappointing, I appreciated that it was trying to kind of put a mirror to Jean-Luc Picard. Like, who are you when you strip away the speeches? When the
Mm-hmm.
world needs more than speeches, who is Jean-Luc Picard?
Yeah.
The second season was like the equivalent of someone taking a bag of cold shit and trying to put it back into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with the bag still, containing
Of
the lukewarm
course.
fecal matter. Uh, everything about it felt like a cheap, like broadcast TV science fiction show set in LA, cheap design, cheap everything, in my
Yes.
opinion. The story was incoherent. Um, they brought up really interesting concepts and just threw them away like nothing. Um, they made big grandiose statements about how the timeline will get affected and we can't do this, and it's a time travel season. It's a season where they have to go back in time. They can't affect the future, but they go back in time and they fucking affect the future. And like,
Of
oh no,
course.
this is how it's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
which is stupid. They go back in time and make a big deal about trying to find out the reason, and they give you 50 million reasons and say, "Oh, these are all the reasons why they went back," instead of like the one really heartfelt emotional reason.
Right.
Um there's a character in Star Trek, specifically in TNG, but he has appeared in other shows called Q.
What does TNG mean?
Oh, the next generation.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. Yeah, I'll go for
Yeah, got you. And he is a cosmic asshole. He's like
it.
Loki, but if
Smick
Loki had
asshole.
a lot of yeah, he's like Loki if he had a lot of fucking power. He just
Oh.
he's existed. He and this community called the Q Continuum has
Uh-huh.
existed since the beginning of time, or
Okay.
so they say. And they're omnipotent beings. And Q, specifically the Q that we know, goes around and he just fucks with Jean-Luc Picard. Like,
Oh well.
it's fun. Oh, let's fucking introduce you to the Borg. Let's fling your ship fucking halfway across the galaxy.
Hmm.
Let's fucking replace your fucking asshole with your mouth and your mouth with your ass. Like shit like that. Like, let me be funny and you figure out how to fix it. But
Right.
occasionally he's actually got two really great fucking episodes
Okay.
uh, where he kind of tests Jean-Luc on like a personal character based level, and where Q is also tested on a personal level. And those are two of some of the best of Star Trek's like episodes too. Um, so it's disappointing that this is his season. This is a season where, spoiler alert, Q is dying. Um, and for some stupid fuck ass reason, he puts Jean Luc through another, ringer, another I'm a cosmic fucking jester kind of thing. Um, and at the end of the fucking show, there's this beautiful scene where they're in some like generic like California forest. You know the one, right? Jerry?
Yeah.
Jerry?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Y-
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't think. just do,
Yeah, okay.
where he's saying he's finally admitting to Jean-Luc, like, I care about you.
Mhm.
You matter. And I did this because it was the only way I could think of giving you a good adventure. And it would have made me fucking cry. Like like tears out of my cold, lifeless eyes
Oh.
if the season wrapped around that moment
Mhm.
was actually good.
Oh.
Because most of the characters that have been built up for the first and second season are now completely tossed out the window. They're either dead or they've stupidly decided to stay in the past, or they've stupidly decided to stay in the past and fling themselves into the alternate future,
Mhm.
whatever the fuck. And now they're going to be all replaced with the TNG cast. So, which
Okay.
means this is going to be a fucking a requel, or not a requel, a fucking reunion season where
Mhm.
you get all your oh yeah, this is so nice. This feels exactly like what I was saying with Halo 4 and Halo 5 and Halo Infinite. It felt like they gave us something that I know people didn't like in the first season, but I
Mhm.
loved the characters. I loved the swashbuckling smuggler captain. I loved the neurotic doctor uh, who has some social issues. I loved the plucky, if emotionally unstable uh, security officer. And I love that they brought Seven back and actually gave her some fun
Hmm.
fucking shit to do.
Yeah.
And most of these characters are now gone, fucking gone.
Oof.
And it feels exactly like the cop out that Halo Infinite did, where it was like, "Oh, hey guys, we went back to the original art style, and we're gonna go back to the basics," and that's how they pegged it as,
Oh.
while like throwing all of the prior stuff that they wanted to do out the window. Like, I didn't think Picard was that great, but like I would have really liked to have seen what a third season would have been like with all of these characters. These characters that, like, for better or worse, they actually tried to put some effort into making decent people despite not doing a great job at it
Yeah.
still though.
Mhm.
So it's frustrating when you see a second season that makes no fucking sense, is just a waste of time. It's 10
Right.
episodes that could have easily been like a movie, a 2-hour movie.
Right.
Easily. It would have been better if it was a 2-hour fucking movie.
Mm.
Um, and then we get to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I was a little apprehensive about this ever since I heard that they were making it. I don't always care for prequels. Um,
Okay.
I'm not one of those fuckheads who's like, "Well, we already know what's gonna happen, so what's the fucking point?" I just That's why I was so interested in Star Trek Discovery, because the ending of fucking season 2 is like, "Oh shit, they're actually going into the future."
Right.
The first season was like, "Oh, so it's kind of like this weird time right before Kirk." Like, I don't really care all that much. The second season was like another
Mm.
weird story, and then they just
Mhm.
randomly decided to fling our characters into the future 1,000 years. And I'm like, "Oh shit, that's
Huh.
fucking bold. I like that. I want to see where they're going with that."
Yeah.
So, my same apprehension for Discovery season 1 and 2 was the same with Strange New Worlds,
Okay.
where, oh, you know what, the cast looks kind of interesting, but I I think maybe they're kind of trying to go back to an era that everyone loves. Everyone loves, well, not everyone. It's not hard to like the original Star Trek. It really isn't. It's
Okay.
campy, it's funny, it's serious, it can be heartbreaking. Like, it's all of those things. It's all really good post Twilight Zone era science fiction.
Okay. Makes sense.
So imagine my shit ass surprise when I sit down and I watch the first goddamn episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that it doesn't try to fucking reinvent the wheel. It just tries to make sure that the wheel doesn't have a fucking hole in it,
Okay, yeah.
or like 50 million of them, or I don't know, a fucking tire at all,
Mhm.
right? Um, Anson Mount, the actor who plays Captain Pike, the prior captain to Captain Kirk of the Enterprise.
Okay.
Um, it follows him and his crew, who take place at roughly 7 or 8 years before Kirk takes over the Enterprise. Follows, let's see, let me fucking pull up the cast. I can't remember all their names from fucking
Uh,
scratch.
there's Christina Chong, Rebecca Rumige.
Damn. Yeah. So Rebecca Romaine.
Okay,
So
Remain.
Anson Mount plays Christopher Pike.
Mm.
Christina Chong plays Laan Noonien Singh,
Mhm.
who is a descendant of a very infamous Star Trek character that I'm really
Okay.
interested in seeing how they put that into the larger world.
Uh-huh.
Rebecca Romaine plays Captain Pike's first officer. Jesse Bush plays Christine Chapel.
Mhm.
Ethan Peck, who, by the way, was in fucking Halo 4,
Oh.
plays Spock.
Mhm.
Uh, so Oh, and Melissa Navia and Cecilia Rose Gooding. These two respectively play, I think, Lieutenant Ortegas and Nyota Uhura. Nyota
Mhm.
Uhura is the second legacy character in this show or third,
Mm. Okay.
but she's playing a cadet at this time, so that's
Ah, okay.
interesting. I like. Um, this show, it's clear that they put in a lot of effort in this show. Okay, I'll get straight to the point. I fucking love Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
Um, I think it's very important with some of the. I don't want to say Star Trek is in shaky grounds because I don't believe that, but I do think that Star Trek, the shows that we have at the moment, could be a lot better.
Okay.
I absolutely believe in just 5 fucking episodes that they have not only they have not only gotten their formula down, but they have provided, I think, a blueprint for the quality of show that they can continue to make.
Okay.
Um, they put a lot of effort into this. Some of the technology that they use for the sets is amazing. They use the what is it, the magic eraser board with images on it that everyone's using now, which
Mhm.
works. It's amazing. The makeup is great. The costumes are great. Anson Mount is so fucking likable as Captain Pike in a way that like no other captain is. This dude, he has to be like on some kind of fucking laughing gas when he's on
Mhm.
set because this guy, it's it's partly because of the character in the show, but he's like the most laid back, like like I exude confidence and just whatever happens happens kind of mentality. Like
Right.
smart, capable, dedicated, uh you're straight but you'll fuck the shit out of him or he'll fuck the shit out of you. He's
Yeah.
just so likable, right? Um in season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, they actually dropped a fucking doozy on you. Uh
Oh.
in the original Star Trek, a little bit of trivia for everyone,
Yes.
and I'll get over with this review as soon as I can. The pilot episode of Star Trek is called The Cage, which actually introduces Captain Pike.
Okay.
He's captured by the Telosians. The Telosians are like, "Oh, dude, you're such a wonderful specimen. You should mate with this human that's on our planet who crash landed and she's disfigured and we repaired her body as best we could. So mate with her so that we can like rebuild our society." He's like, "Never."
Right.
And then he gets into a life-threatening accident and he's stuck to it. he's basically a quadriplegic in a fucking beep chair. The only way he can communicate is like one beep versus two beeps,
Okay.
and that's fucking horrifying.
Yes.
Um, and you're thinking, wow, they're making a show about a guy who's eventually gonna fucking end up in a beep chair. That's fucking awful. I don't know if I care about that.
Right.
But the fucking curveball, Harrison,
Mm-hmm.
is that in season two, to help Discovery with whatever fucking thing that they were doing in season two, he glimpses his own future and realizes that he's going to end up in the beep chair.
Ah.
And it gets fucking better. A character defining moment. A character defining fuck ass moment.
Yes.
A character is like, because it's Star Trek,
Right.
if you wish to help Discovery, the path this path will lead you to that future. You can walk away and that future will probably not happen. But
Mm.
if you go on this course, this will happen to you in 10 years time. And this fucker looks his beep ass chair self in the eye and is like, I have to do this.
Oh wow.
And the entire show so far has bits of that sprinkled in every episode of him. Like, the first episode is him saying like, I'm I don't want to do this. He's he's a fucking bum. He's making pancakes. He's got a beard. He's just slaying other captains' asses, and
Yeah.
he's not captain. He doesn't want to do it, and he's pulled back into it. And it's only when his one of his security officers says some random anecdote that it kind of pulls him out of his malaise. The second fucking episode is literally about changing the course of a comet, and then you find out that the course of the comet was meant to be changed, and it's like, oh wait, can I change my fate, or is what's going to happen supposed to happen?
Right.
And it's not the entirety of every episode, but it's important because Pike is one of the most important characters in the show. It's an ensemble. Unlike Discovery, they're kind of going back to the basics, right? We're introduced to about 8 or 9 characters, and all of them are pretty well defined in my
Mm.
opinion. And Pike is kind of at the top of it.
Okay.
And oh, Harry,
Yeah.
I'm I'm excited. I'm excited for Star Trek again.
That's good, man.
Like I'm I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for my like soul crushing ass job to end so
Mm-hmm.
that I can go fucking watch Star Trek. And it's ah like the guy who plays fucking Spock is great. He's fucking amazing. Uh they have a chief medical officer, Dr. Mbenga, and he's like he's got like fringe medicine going on. Then they've got Hemmer, who is a an Enar that will. He's an Andorian. He's a blue person with white hair and like little tentacles on the top of his head, and
Okay.
he's an Enar, which means he's fucking weirder, but he's still an Andorian.
Okay.
He's blind and he's the engineer.
Mm.
Yeah, it's fucking great. And all these characters are so fucking well defined. The stories are classic stories in Star Trek, like the comet episode, the fucking we're being attacked by another ship and we have to do like some fucking battleship style shit, right? The body swap episode, the fucking body swap episode. The body swap episode was tonight, and like all of these episodes are just solid. Like they
Okay.
have it down. I cannot stress this enough. It's so gratifying seeing all this, seeing all these characters. They're so well art not well articulated. They're so well defined and they
Yeah.
have so much room to grow. They all have some thing at least that kind of gets them over the finish line in terms of like their character development, not character development, but their character like defining traits.
Okay.
I'm done. Thank you. This is the end of my TED talk. Fucking. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
I hate that this show is only 10 episodes. I have 5 more weeks to just be happy,
Yeah.
and then I'm dead.
That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I'll
So.
give a spirited, shorter review of everything
Mm-hmm.
once the whole season is done
Yeah.
later with more forethought and more consideration to what I'm actually trying to say. But I needed to gush. I really fucking
Yeah.
needed
Of course. Of
to
course. Um.
gush.
So let's gush some more and
Yeah.
discuss some Top Gun Maverick. So good, dude.
Living in the hills, night. Highway
Highway
to
to
the
the
danger.
danger
Okay,
zone. Yeah. Uh,
Harry, let me get your opinion first.
my opinion of this movie is that it was fucking brilliant. The song we just sang is obviously very I'm trying to find the right word for it. Iconic when it comes to Top Gun. Like you
Kenny
think of
Loggins, man.
you think of you think when you think of Top Gun, you think of Danger Zone. When you think of Danger Zone, you think of fucking Top Gun. Um, and yeah, they first scene in the fucking movie. That's what they gave you, and they knew that that's what they needed to do. And holy shit, it's what we wanted. um, and the rest of the movie was good. Aside from the joke of like, oh, it's basically you know, same story as the first one. um,
Hmm.
uh, everything was great about it though. How
Yeah.
um Maverick's character just continuing to be the person he is, um, being the fastest man alive. You know what I mean?
Mark
Going
10
yeah,
or Mach 10.
Mach 10 above. Um, it's just it's awesome because you get to see, oh, this is what Maverick's been doing. He's still a pilot. He's still
Hmm.
doing his thing, and of course, things don't go right, blah blah blah, but it's still cool to like,
Goose.
yeah. Uh, it's still cool that they like in the end he is the person who leads the team on the mission where he was supposed to only teach them.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's cool. I think it's a good
Yeah.
hoot, like a final like, hey, this is it. This is the end of Maverick. This is gonna be there's gonna be no more, and I think that was great. Um, I just I'm trying to it's what we watched last night. No, the night before. The night
Hmm.
before. Watched the night before, and trying to remember as much as possible. But no, yeah, so jarbled. It
You got
just
this. I believe. Hey, no one's listening. I'm listening. You just
it's
talk your fucking heart out.
all that matters. No, it was just such a good movie, dude. It just reminds me of like something like again, it gave like the people who watched the original what they wanted, right?
Hmm.
Like, hey, we came to see fucking jets fly and do crazy ass things, right? Stupid stunts and whatever. And that's exactly what they gave you. And it also
Hmm.
had a good story of like, hey, you know, the son of like the guy who died in the first one, you know,
Hmm.
is in it, and like obviously like Tom Cruise's character feels guilty, and so like there's that tension there, and then there's this. I mean, there's this the obvious love interest that's going to be in the movie for Tom Cruise. I don't believe their character was in the original. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but um, I could be wrong. But it's like it, just everything in total, or the whole story, I think was great. Having Val Kilmer was fucking great. The way they incorporated what he's dealing with and how they incorporate his
Yeah.
character in the movie was, I think, they made it work, and like hats off to them to be like, hey, this is like fucking. I remember like because in the movie, Val Kilmer's character passes away, and when they show that scene, I look over at Mark and I'm like, Val Kilmer's still alive, right? Like,
And then,
and
and
the
then
yeah,
I retorted, they killed Batman.
yeah. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so nonetheless, this is such a fun movie. Like, it's not a 10 out of 10, but it was such a fun movie. I had a great time watching it. It I've I've seen a handful of movies now recently that have just been plain fun. I'm forgetting the ones that we've seen recently that were just plain fun, but they're out there. I I watched
Hmm.
them and I said they are fun. I just don't remember which ones. But
Right.
but yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's awesome. It's just a oh, the Nick Cage movie. It's just a fun movie. Like this movie, it's just a fun movie, like you just go in and watch a movie in the theaters and you have a good time. And it's like it was like, so while Livy and I were waiting for you outside, we're just like, the people that were leaving the theater were obviously talking about Top Gun, and like it just
Hmm.
like seemed like that movie where like, you know, we're like, oh god, it's gonna be one of those movies. Um
Yeah.
but honestly, it was much better than one of like those generic movies. Like, they definitely did a lot of work and they put a lot of effort into it, and I had, again, a fantastic time. Um
Oh yeah.
so I like I think that's it. I think I'm just running in circles right now. This is a great movie. I definitely watch it again just for the fun of it. I won't pay to watch it again, but I would sit down and watch it again.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yes, now I'm sure you have a way more technical way to explain this movie and how you feel. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
take it
Yeah, it was good.
away.
I don't have much technical to say about it. Long story short for the plot, Maverick is thrown back to Top Gun, which is the like highfalutin fighter pilot training school for the United States, to train or to prepare an elite fighter team for a basically a suicide mission, and he devises a plan to make it a not suicide mission. Um, one review I read says it's an airplane heist caper,
Mm,
and that sounds kind of about right. Uh, a couple of wrenches are thrown into the works. Goose's son comes in, and he's part of the group, and him and Maverick have a little bit of a beef, but that's pretty much the entire movie. The conflict, the training to prepare for this military heist caper, and then the heist caper, and then the strangest fucking like 40-minute third act I could ever fucking imagine. Um, uh, God, where do I even want to start with this? I feel like I didn't even do. I feel like I should have read something for this because this is an interesting movie. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is a movie that like I is what? It's not a requel necessarily. I think
Mm.
the term might be something like a legacy sequel,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I've heard thrown around a bit, like Doctor Sleep for The Shining, Blade
Yes.
Runner 2049. Uh, it's not so much that they're rebooting it; they're making a sequel.
Yes.
Uh, they don't intend to continue the franchise, or at least I hope they don't. But they make a sequel to a series that maybe not necessarily needs one, right? Like
Yeah.
Doctor Sleep isn't just an adaptation of the book, right? If
Right,
it
yeah.
was, it would be a slightly different movie. It also has to, or it is also a sequel to The Shining, which
Yeah.
differs greatly from the actual Stephen King book, but does a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic job. I thought Doctor Sleep was an immensely underrated film. Ewan McGregor was great in it. I thought the tone was amazing. I thought the fucking villains were great. Besides the point, I digress. Top Gun Maverick is a legacy sequel. It is a movie that uh, is made following a substantial, I think, 30-year, 35, 36-year gap.
Yeah.
Um, Top Gun is a classic for a lot of people. I didn't care for it that much. I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I just, it's not like, yeah, it's my top five. Um,
Right, right.
this movie, I think, if we're going like strictly from how it looks in terms of like stunts, in terms of like seeing the planes do plane stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a significantly better movie. And I get like, oh, it's 30 something years and like of course it would be better, but like the director, Joseph Kosinski, I think his name is, um he's only done like four movies. Like I remember he did fucking Tron Legacy in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
He did Oblivion, which to my knowledge was the first time I had seen anyone do the let's put an image on a tarp and make it look realistic thing happen,
Yeah.
and I gushed over that like almost 10 years ago. Um and then he fucking did this. I'm sure he did one or two movies in between, but
There's Only the Brave
what year was that?
and
Hold on. Don't tell me anything about it. What year was that?
2017.
Wait, hold on. Who's in it? I know this. Hold on. Who's it?
Oh,
Name one actor. Two
hold on.
actors.
Hold on.
There's no way I
Josh
can prove this to you
Brolin.
folks, but I'm not looking at the computer screen.
Josh
Okay, give
Brolin.
me one more.
Jeff Bridges. Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, he did that one? Oh, I
Miles
was not
Teller.
excited about that. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's the firefighter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I see
Yeah.
that. I see
I never saw it. I didn't it didn't
that. Okay.
I don't care for disaster movies, but
Yeah.
whatever. Um so yeah, he's a fairly capable filmmaker. Um his camera work is pretty impressive, or at least
Uh-huh.
from like the stunty aspect of it. Um I really should have read whether or not Tom Cruise was fucking piloting shit or not. I would imagine there was probably some like dwarf behind him with like a yoke flying the whole thing the whole time. Um, but to be fucking fair, Tom Cruise fucking piloting a fucking fighter jet would not have surprised me if someone just walked up to me and said it. Um, Tom Cruise gives like the same like charming, arrogant, do-gooder kind of thing that he's been doing for like the last 12 years, which works. I mean, he's a capable actor. I think he works at his best when like there's a really good script. Uh, so he's good in it. Miles Teller is pretty fucking good in it. The real fucking star of the show movie, uh, ladies and gentlemen, is the fucking 2022 version of Iceman's fucking smug grin.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Let's find out. So the movie, jokes aside, is pretty much a not a carbon copy, but a fairly safe adaptation of the first film. Miles Teller's character, even if he's playing the son of Goose, is for the most part the Tom Cruise kind of character of 1986. And then Glenn Powell, who every time he's on the screen has like this face that like just oozes like punchably fuckable or fuckably
Mm.
punchable. I don't know. Whichever two is interchangeable, whichever one works. But he's the equivalent of Iceman, and their conflict is also a little underdeveloped in my opinion. Like the fucking Glenn Powell who plays Hangman
Yeah.
is kind of just there to be an antagonist. But like to be fair, isn't Val Kilmer in the first one too? I honestly
Yeah.
don't remember. I haven't seen the fucking movie in years. I'll watch it so that I can have barely an opinion on it next week. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, there's that. Uh, and this fucking dude, every time he's on screen, like his smile just, well, I don't need to restate it. Fuckably punchable or punchably fuckable. I don't fucking know. This dude should be every asshole or like himbo in every movie,
Yes.
and I will die on that hill. Anyway, um, it has a pretty decent sized cast. Let's see, we have Lewis Pullman. That's Bill Pullman's son, who is the president in Independence Day. We will not die. Wait,
Really?
yeah. We will not go silently in that night.
Yeah.
We will not vanish without a fight.
Yes.
Miles Teller, who plays Bradley Bradshaw, Goose's son,
Mm-hmm.
aka Rooster, with the
Rooster.
worst mustache, and another actor who will put skin in the game, because I believe that was actually him playing the fucking piano. There's a bit where he's
Sick.
all the main second gen pilots are introduced, and it's introduced in the bar, the bar that they introduced in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this fucker, this whiplashing ass motherfucker starts jazz pianoing and starts doing what is it?
Great balls of fire.
You shake my nose and you rattle my brain. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, I was really fucking impressed with that.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Ed Harris uh, has like 5 minutes in it, but he's pretty good. You could tell he's getting tired and old. And the guy's only 30 and he looks like a 70-year-old. So, whatever. Um, God, I'm trying to think off the top of my head who is in this.
Monica Barbaro was Phoenix.
Okay,
Jennifer
nice. I've seen a
Connelly was
couple
the
of.
love interest.
Mhm. Yeah, that's disappointing. I thought they would do more with her, but like she had some kind of cliched lines, like, "Oh, it's good to see you again. Don't do that. Let's just stay friends." And then
Yeah.
like, whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Jennifer Connelly, I do enjoy as an actress. I think
Mm-hmm.
she's very capable. I don't think I don't think she's had the same kind of oh, how do I say it? I don't want to say that like she's an outsider, but I get the impression that she kind of took a different path than most actresses at that time. Like
Mm-hmm.
she came up around the same time as Tom Cruise
Mm-hmm.
too. Um and she's had a fairly steady career like ever since then. I'm still waiting on a fucking legacy sequel for Labyrinth where she's the fucking
So
Goblin
good.
Queen or the Goblin Princess.
Yes, that'd be
Anyway,
good.
oh fucking, and she's also introduced in this movie by a fucking David Bowie song.
Yeah, you
Um,
pointed that out. I did not
yeah,
notice.
yeah. Well, fuck it, it's David Bowie, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All the treasures are gone. At least we have Bowie.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
Um.
No. Um. Okay. Let me get back on point.
Yeah, so one thing though, I just looked it up.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, Miles Teller, Monica Barbaro, and where did he go? I believe also Glenn Powell and one other person. Was it Coyote or Fanboy who was the Payback, Jay Ellis. Um they all actually were flying F-18s.
That is. Oh god.
So
That is.
the
Even if they were just flying in a fucking line, that's still
yeah.
impressive.
The story is like they would be out flying them and have cameras attached to them, and the director literally couldn't direct anything. He just said, "All right, here's the cameras.
Uh,
They're facing you.
Action.
Okay, well, go fly." And then
Go
just
fly this plane. Go have fun. We're gonna go get a beer.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think all the stunts I think are
Mhm.
safe to say are actual pilots, and then
Yeah.
like some of the
The
the other stuff.
close-ups, yeah. I'm pretty it says the close-ups were 100% them, and Tom Cruise wanted it to be real. So like the whole like pulling like all of those maneuvers, he said it needs to be real. I can't just like fake it. It needs to be me going that speed, doing that turn, going pulling up, and all that stuff. So
What
like
was that thing that I said? He's been having like, oh, fuck, it was so good.
mid
There it is. He's been having like a 30-year midlife
yeah,
crisis. So like, fucker, if you want to hang yourself out of a fucking airplane, go
yeah.
ahead. But like, be careful with other fucking
hmm
actors,
So I'm sure
dude.
like
It has to be real.
I'm sure everyone else, the rest of the cast other than Tom Cruise was like doing it in a more safer, way.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Tom Cruise was also, but I'm sure he kind of was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do some crazy shit." So,
Yeah. Right.
um,
Um. I definitely appreciated the interactive quality to. I don't mean like
hmm
viewer to movie, but like there's a bit where I don't know why I noticed it the most, but Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob, there's
yes,
like bits where he is, since he's the gunner, not the gunner, but the targeting fellow.
yes,
There's more bits where he's like pushing his like hands against the interior of the canopy,
hmm
and it's like you can see like he's pushing because of like the force that's being exerted on his
yeah,
body and like him turning and looking,
hmm
and that kind of, I mean, I don't know if I'm using the right language, but like the tactile quality to it, like they're
yes,
not just sitting in a canopy like looking, like he's interacting with the entire area, and
hmm
it adds to that layer of like, oh wow, there's a lot of force behind all this. Oh wow, they're actually in this like canopy. This isn't just like a fucking green screen. And I
yeah,
was telling you as we were getting out of the fucking theater, I'm like, fuck, this is the kind of shit where it's like I want this, but for like a Star Wars Flight Academy movie, where it's
yes,
like you just fucking get fuck. I wouldn't even mind if they just did that tarp and just had someone flying over like terrain and they just had you interact with it. Like they just put someone in a fucking like flight like control box and we're just shaking the
hmm
fucking thing. But like that shit makes me so excited for more prestige movies like that because this is a kind of movie that gets asses in seats, right? Like
yes,
this is the kind of movie now that is going to this is going to make money. Um
yes,
but it's also decent enough to succeed off of not just like Tom Cruise is bringing the money. The fucking the like prestige around him fucking like piloting a fuck ass plane
hmm
is another quality. And then just like, oh, it's Top Gun and they've been like marketing this thing as like people are actually in planes.
yeah,
And fucking the long game marketing they did with this movie was impressive
hmm
because they waited. Like,
Yeah.
that is so impressive that it paid off for them
Yes.
because Christopher Nolan didn't fucking wait a minute to delay Tenet
Yeah.
for the pandemic, and it ruined Tenet. It
Yeah.
absolutely ruined Tenet. Tenet had the worst, absolute worst ratings, absolute worst box office because no one went to see this fucking movie.
Right.
Christopher Nolan better be rolling in his fucking grave that his like grade A like cerebral fucking backward forward like inside out upper decker movie didn't do diddly, but like this one man stunt movie with like, let's be honest, bare bones story, but like you're there for the fucking stunts is outperforming I think what would have been a better movie.
Mm.
So insane. It's so impressive that like they managed to wait and they got that, you know, the big bucks from
Yeah.
that. Good for them. Well, whatever, but
Yeah. They numbers box office here in worldwide 330 million
how much
right
was the
now.
budget for the movie?
Ooh.
They got that military propaganda budget too.
Oh, of course they did. Okay. So this website does not give me the budget. Actually, hold on. Top Gun 2 budget 170 million.
They only had a wow. I would have thought it would have been more. Never mind.
You would think, but they racked in. Let's see, the U.S. and Canada alone currently 191 mil opening
That's not
weekend,
bad.
and only U.S. and Canada 126 million.
Mm-hmm.
We were included in that because it's May 20. Oh no, wait. No, we watched it on Tuesday. That's not opening weekend. Oh yeah, opening weekend ended on Sunday. We watched it 2 days later, so we're not included in the 126 million. Look at that. We're included in the
Jesus.
330 million. Woo!
Nice.
Yeah, damn, that
Yeah,
is
fucking that's impressive. Or at
mm-hmm.
least I guess it's impressive. Yeah. But like it's interesting like Tom Cruise he's made statements before that like, hey, I'm not here to make something that's just gonna end up on TV. Like
Right.
this is the kind of thing you make with the intent of it being in theaters. And
Yeah.
I would imagine he had a say too on like when this movie or pushed to have it released at a specific time. So
Yeah. Because
yeah, hats off.
you're you're right. Like this has been talked about for years, and I remember, and that's why I brought it up. I think Tom Cruise, like, I think he's actually flying those planes because I think that's why it took so long to come out because they had to train. All the actors had to actually learn how to fly these F-18s and fly them, So, and it was just the main people flying, right? Like Louis Pullman didn't need to learn how to fly the plane because he was, the second seater. So it was only Phoenix, Monica Barbaro, who
Hmm.
was actually learned how to fly the plane, and Pullman was just in the second. That's why he was fucking
God.
bracing himself because,
Yeah.
he didn't really need any training. It's just like, yo, you're just gonna be back there and feel all the G's. Like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
So
If that was me, it'd just be like just go to fucking sleep. Just
yeah,
sleep.
so yeah, I it's just the amount of effort that was put into this movie, like because of that, like you need to learn how to fly these jets. And from what I've read, the actual Top Gun Academy was there to help. Obviously, they filmed all the extra like outside the cabin footage. They're the ones who filmed everything, so they're flying with them, and like you said, they're doing all the stunts and whatnot. So,
I'm
um,
getting the feeling that there are two separate movies. There's
oh
Top Gun
yeah,
Maverick,
mm-hmm.
where the military just like let Tom Cruise do whatever he wanted at one of these bases. And then there's Top Gun the last like 40 minutes,
Yeah,
which is all fucking Joseph Kosinski. Because, ladies
mm-hmm.
and fucking gentlemen, this movie turns into like the silliest fucking thing in the last 40 minutes. They do
It
the
does.
mission. Tom Cruise fucking sacrifices himself to save Goose 2,
Yeah,
and Goose 2 sacrifices his plane to save Tom Cruise uh, as he's about to die because he survived the crash, which did not look like it was fucking possible, but
mm-hmm.
whatever. They go to the nearby airbase that has been annihilated on their approach, and they commandeer an F-14 or an F-18. It's an old fucking plane,
Yeah,
and they demolish two whatever the Gen 5 planes, which are apparently like top of the line. Although I would
mm-hmm.
wager no other fucking country on the planet has the fucking hardware the United States has. Like, come the fuck on. And yeah, so it becomes kind of like the A team
Yeah.
in the last like 30 minutes, but still really fucking fun.
No, yeah, it was
And
so much fun.
that's Joseph Kosinski's contribution. The rest of the
Yeah,
movie, 75% of it, that's the US military, and then the other 75 or the 25, that's Joseph Kosinski doing
yeah,
like the fucking directing for this silly slapstick fucking
yeah.
no, 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 let's get fucking commandeer this plane bullshit.
Like, oh, so we're doing the exact same story as the first one. Let's do it.
No, let me tell you something, pal. The ending completely different.
Oh man, but no,
So good.
it was good. But yeah, I would give this. God, I feel like I would give it an like personally like a 9 out of 10, just because I had such a good time. But
Mhm.
like legitimately, s- I'd probably give it like an 8.5.
Damn, you're
Yeah,
slipping.
am I?
No, no, you're fine.
Like it's just there weren't like other than like hey we're same shit's happening as the first one kind of bullshit. Like other than that, like everything else is fucking great. Like the beginning, Tom Cruise riding his fucking motorcycle, fucking going
Mhm.
Mach 10, fucking like landing who knows fucking where. Just points at a glass of water, drinks it. It's like, where am I? Earth. Like, oh man, like
God, he's in the middle of fucking nowhere. There are way too many white people in that scene.
yeah, like
As a white, I gotta be completely honest. There were way too many pink people in that scene.
yeah,
It was uncomfortable, even for me. Like,
like
there
you
wasn't
make
a Tabasco bottle in sight.
yeah, like you're right though. Like for how fast he was flying to like be in a place where they're speaking English like that.
He did a curve, Harry. He did a
Yeah,
fucking curve,
he
okay?
did
He
do a
didn't go straight.
curve,
What I was
I
saying
guess.
was, what I find so enjoyable is that instead of like crash landing in like Mexico or like
Mm-hmm.
some fucking like Latin mountain
Oh,
or
okay.
somewhere in Africa,
Yeah.
the right where it's like, oh, the farthest he could possibly be is like some dying mining town in fucking Virginia.
Yeah,
I
fair
love
enough,
it.
fair
I
enough.
fucking love it. See, that's as far as you can go. Even if you crash landed in fucking Africa, South Africa, you would still be closer to the United States
Yeah,
than you would be if you crash landed in a fucking dying mining town in Virginia.
yeah.
Okay? There you go.
There I go.
And fucking stop dubbing over Val Kilmer's fucking cancer-ridden voice, okay, people?
Th-
Just
I
let him fucking use sign language.
sign language, yeah, perfect. But yeah,
And it's not because I took ASL, not at all.
yeah, Top Gun, great. Any other thoughts on Top Gun?
Fuck no. It was
Okay.
enjoyable.
Mm.
I'm really happy with the movies that are coming out at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
So fucking everything everywhere all at once, which I would like to see again. I caught it a little while ago. Um, that was like an outer body fucking experience. I want to take you to. Um,
Mm.
this, which is a big fucking spectacle. Oh god, there's so many things coming out like that. I I feel like is kind of making a comeback.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
Um. So before we move on to the next one, have you ever seen the movie Legend?
Oh fucking my guy.
Okay, making sure because we were talking about fucking Labyrinth and Tom Cruise, and I was like, fucking Legend. Um,
The
I,
last unicorn dies tonight.
so good. Um,
That is so like can you imagine like that was Ridley Scott. That was like coming
mm,
right off of fucking
that
uh
was Ridley
I
Scott.
think Alien and Blade Runner. Or maybe hold on.
Hold on, 1985, Ridley
85. So this
Scott.
is yeah, this is way after. So this fucker makes a random dark fairy tale fucking story that is just cobbled together, mind you. Like he directed a shitload of this movie, then fucking the studio trims it the fuck down or whatever. But like, god damn. Ah, and Tim Curry
Yeah,
in the most
I
like painstaking like w- red plaster makeup or whatever silicone rubber. Ugh.
like to this day, I have never seen. I know he's darkness in the movie, but like I have never seen like a more like I can't even think of the right word, but like devil slash Satan than like Tim Curry
Then
in
him.
this movie. This is fucking like God, it's like the size of his fucking horns, dude.
God.
Like like I don't know uh who was like I need his horns to be fucking massive. Like not this like bullshit like, like little devil horns like oh he's Satan. Like nah. We need him to be fucking darkness. We need massive fucking
Like
horns.
everything frightening about like a fucking devil.
Yeah, like
Oh, so good.
when he first enters, when you first see darkness, when you just see that fucking hoof go through the mirror, like you're like, oh, what the fuck is that?
Oh
Oh, dude. Oh
God.
man,
Don't even
I
the you know what it is for me? It's when fucking Mia Sarah or whatever her name is like,
yeah,
I want to be the one who kills the last unicorn, and he just does like this 20-second laugh, and
yes,
he's got like the silicon rubber ball chin
mm-hmm,
and fucking fangs, and none of that ruins the conveyance of how evil he fucking is.
yes,
It's so good. Sit
yeah.
and talk with me. My voice cannot get that
No,
low.
yeah,
It
no,
can't.
so I need to find out. Did Tim Curry actually voice that?
Yes, but I
Holy
think
fuck! Like
I
had
guarantee they probably like lowered the octaves a little
yeah,
bit somehow.
because God, dude, that. Sorry, I just needed to get wet over that movie for a second.
Yeah,
I
that
need to,
movie is a troubled classic.
yeah, I need to rewatch that, dude. It's
Oh,
been
I'm down.
a solid minute since I've seen it, so it'd be
I don't think
awesome.
Stace has seen it all the way through. She'd fucking love it.
Oh, dude, so good. So
Oh man.
going from fantasy, Willow. I have not seen the original movie, but I saw the trailer for the series that's coming out. And I do see that um they're bringing back his name Warwick Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of fantasy stuff in a while.
Which, by
Um
the way, had Val Kilmer in it.
that's right. The original did have Van Kilmer. Uh
So, I'm in agreement. I think this is probably the only movie I've ever seen once
mm,
and don't like remember
yeah.
in its entirety, which breaks my heart. But besides the point, I know that it's a classic. I've been wanting to see it again,
Mhm.
um, and I have to see it before I see this show. I
Yeah.
just fucking have to. But
Same here.
to be fair, I would have preferred if this was a movie. I'm not.
Mm,
I think to be honest, I don't care for
the
the cheap
series.
extended movie uh model. I really don't.
Yeah.
Um I think at least for me it's pretty clear that something like Moon Knight could have
Yeah.
just been a movie
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah,
You
I
wouldn't
agree.
have you wouldn't have lost anything in my
No,
opinion if you'd
no,
have just
no.
made it a 2 hour, maybe 2 hour 10-minute movie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I don't think the format helps mainly cuz it's just
So I would say because this is I mean, other than a movie, there's nothing really to Willow, right?
right.
Like, for example, with Moon Knight, you're part of this massive universe. Obi-Wan Kenobi, part of this massive universe. Uh, because the series thing has just like obviously there's been series before, but like I don't like I can agree that like when it comes to like series that have come out based off like a movie or something haven't really gone well. Um,
Mhm.
but at the same time, like this one could be good. Like, I think a good example, if Willow is a one season thing, just like yo, check this out. This is fucking cool, right? Would be it's not based off of a movie, but based off of a game, and I still haven't seen it, but I've only heard great things. Is The Witcher.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I'm a little biased, but I think it's just the aspect of the fantasies, like fantasy. Like there's just when you go in to watch like a fantasy whatever, and you and I have sat down and watched really bad fantasy movies, we still come out of it being like, I enjoyed myself.
We absolutely go for the camp, right?
Yeah.
What was the
Mm-hmm.
which one was it?
There's so
Where they
many.
referenced Conan. Uh
Um.
Stalker
Oh
2.
yes, Stalker 2, so good.
Better than the first one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in my
Yes.
opinion.
Agreed.
But we see the thing is like that that's an era of exploitation or exploitative films,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's like we have to get asses in seats, so we're gonna make a cheap movie with tits.
Yeah.
Um, but like we go because it's like the sets are bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's like the guy who's acting can't act his way out of a paper bag. There's no stunt coordination, so like
Mm-hmm.
the guy's like midway between like overly like thrusting this sword into some like poorly paid stunt actor
Yeah.
or like barely half-heartedly putting any effort in and you can see it. or like the bad makeup, the
Yeah.
bad story, the bad reasoning. Like you and I literally came up with a story, I think, which bucked all of that, right? Like
Mhm.
the joke story that we did was a kid is saved by a priest, and the priest is like, "Ah, you are foretold to save the world," and the or not the world, but your kingdom. And like the next scene is like him with like an arrow through his neck, and then you get
Yes.
like the Conan character because the idea is that like all of these movies are like the self-fulfilling prophecy, like the king's son, the
Yeah.
child, the massacres the family because it's like he's gonna usurp the evil sorcerer king, and
Right.
then he oh go we raised you to be a good person, and then the village dies and he goes on the quest and kills everyone, and that would be like the perfect intro to Conan because instead
Yeah.
of like it being the guy who's prophesized to kill people, it's fucking Conan because he sees this fucking dumbass with a fucking arrow through his neck. Anyway, besides the point,
Yes, yes, yes.
we go because that's super fun. We like fucking fantasy. We like dark fantasy too.
Mhm,
Like
mhm,
it's there's something really enjoyable about it. And that gritty, like people trudging through mud in a hot day kind of thing
mhm.
is something that fantasy has always been kind of fun to look at, even the shitty stuff on film.
Yes.
Um, it's tough because it's like I like TV movies.
Mhm.
Uh, fucking the '90s was nothing but TV movies. There was Merlin, there was The Odyssey, there was all those really really awful TV movies in the '90s
Yeah.
that were just so good, like for the camp value. But
Mhm.
the thing is Willow is like a really endearing fantasy,
Okay.
and I just wonder what milking it would do instead of
Mhm,
trying to
mhm.
create just another solid movie, right? Like if it was a mini series. So I keep talking about this. I really don't mean to belabor the point, but
Yeah.
if it's a TV movie, it should be like 3 to 5 parts.
Okay. Okay.
In my opinion, I think it should be what's the point of making it an extra 2 hours that you can't do on like a movie? Because a movie, like
Mm.
I get it, we're trained to like accept 2 hours or 2 hours now with Marvel movies, like 2 hours and 20 something minutes.
Right, right,
But
right.
like
Minimum.
I keep seeing what the change in serialization, not serialization, the change in syndication is doing,
Yeah.
where it's like they no longer need 20 something episodes, which means, you know, there's no room for like the silly episode or like the
Right.
generic episode. You know, in every one of these shows in like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where it's like there's that one throwaway episode, or like now there are 50 of them because the show is technically like 170 episodes long. Now
Mhm.
it's 70 episodes. Um, but what's going on, what I have an issue with is bring up Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery really, really, really wants to do one long story in 10 episodes.
Mm.
10 episodes is a little too long for
Okay.
one straightforward story. And at the same time, 10 episodes is not long enough to get to know people every season.
Right.
That's what makes 26 episodes endearing, is because Worf gets his "Oh, I'm going to raise my child and I'm oh gosh, I'm crippled and how do we talk about that?" Or like Riker's doing this or something something. And then you
Mm.
get like a
Yeah.
couple serious episodes. What's the point of making Willow a show? Because the only thing that I can see at the moment is just a reduced budget. Like
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I'm thinking if it's one season, how many millions of dollars are they going to put into one episode? Or how many hundreds of thousands of dollars are they going to put into one episode? As opposed to if they made a modern day dark fantasy what we were talking about, what exactly we were talking about, a legacy sequel. If they
Right.
made a legacy sequel of Willow, what would that look like? How would that be priced? I would imagine a Willow movie would be more expensive than a 6 episode show of
Yeah.
Willow, but also cheaper in any sense of the word.
It's 8 episodes.
Oh, it's 8 episodes. Is it a mini series or is it
That's
season
from.
one or
I'm guessing it says one season, 8 episodes so far. That's what's been released.
okay. I'm interested. When's it coming out?
November 30th.
Ooh, they got some time. They've been they've been advertising stuff a while out now,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty impressed, not impressed with, but I'm pretty interested in. They're really kind of trying to get out of the whole pandemic. We're not out of it, but they're
Mm,
really trying to get out of that mindset. Like,
yes.
hey, let's look forward to when this can come out in the foreseeable future. Let's
Yeah.
give it a year, or hey, let's not wait.
Yeah.
Wow, Willow Ufgood. Gosh, you know what? No, fuck it, Harry. We're watching Willow. I
Yeah.
don't fucking care. I'll fucking set up a time
Hmm.
soon.
Hmm.
We're watching it. I don't give
Oh,
a shit.
hands down. Okay. Um.
But I
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this feels like a version of what the Dark Crystal would feel like. Because, like,
Mm,
it's obviously cheaper to make a show,
yeah.
right? Like
I would assume so. Yes.
like even an expensive show is still cheaper than one movie. But I feel
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just feel like the return value is meant to cheapen. It's meant to be cheap. And
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
mean necessarily quality, but it's like they want to cut cost.
Yeah.
So they split what would probably make a good 2 hour movie, or hell, 90 minute, 100 minute movie,
Mm,
uh, into a 6 hour, 6.5 hour bloated but cheaper thing, right?
yeah. I would assume so.
That's disappointing. I actually don't know anything about the model. I would actually really like to get more into understanding it.
Yeah. Agreed. Um. I'm just again fantasy. It's been a while for me. Um. Watching anything fantasy heavy.
Oh
Um.
yeah.
Oh, that's what I recently saw. Uh. Fucking uh Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore. Yeah, that's like the
No,
closest to fantasy that I've seen, and yeah, it was bad. That's all
no.
I'm gonna say about it. Um,
You
or
poor
okay,
man.
one thing is I still thoroughly enjoy, forget his name, the actor that I told you I really liked being the villain.
Angry Nicholson.
Yes, um,
He's so good.
he's so good. Other than
Mads
that,
Mikkelsen.
the
He's
movie
fucking
was.
amazing.
Yeah, it's just there's like seven different stories trying to be told. Um, about six of them had no resolution and did not need to be involved in the main story. And yeah, there you go.
I need to watch it. I really do. I don't
Yeah,
want to, but I feel like I need to so I can keep up with what's going on.
like yeah, like after seeing there's only three, right? Yeah, after seeing the three, the first one was great, and I think they just didn't know what to do with that character, and they're trying
Yeah,
to do some form of like prequel to Harry
I
Potter with
that
Dumbledore, and it just did
I
no.
I just I hated the prequel baiting. I really do.
Mhm.
They said they before this thing like spiraled out of control, they wanted it to be like a 5 part like thing,
Yeah,
but I never ever wanted this to tie into to the greater Harry Potter stuff.
yeah,
I would
like
have I would have genuinely liked if this had nothing to do with Gellert Grindelwald
yeah,
or fucking oh, Dumbledore's in it. Oh, cool. That's great. He's in it for one movie.
Right, or like just like cameos of like his character, right? Like they
Yeah.
talk about him, or he gets involved, or not really involved, but like they go to him or something. Because yeah, like it's predominantly known in that world that Dumbledore was well known even in his younger age. So it's
Mhm.
like it would make sense that he would be involved or whatever. But you're right, that first movie was great because it was really not Harry Potter based. It was just in the
Mhm.
same world, but like like that like century before, and it was just like them. It was just about this character, about the zoologist or whatever they call him, and doing his thing, and then shenanigan ensues. I think that would have been cool to just keep it that way, but
Yeah.
this like, oh, we want to get intertwined to Dumbledore and Harry Potter, and it's like, okay, well, uh, that's
It
where
definitely
they,
has to be. Yeah.
yeah, that's where they really messed up because I think it was just money talking. People were like, hey, you know what would really sell? And Dumbledore.
Tie into Harry Potter.
Yeah, tie into
Yeah.
Harry Potter. So people were like, oh, I want to know how things were before Harry Potter. Like, whatever. But yeah, anyways, that movie sucked. But have fun watching it. um,
Yeah. I can hear the appreciation in your voice.
yeah. Okay. So,
Fuck.
the last thing that I want to talk about,
Oh.
going away from movie, or sorry, yeah, movies and cinema or whatever. There's the PlayStation State of Play today.
Oh.
Um,
No. I
uh,
missed that.
yeah, so I missed it too because I was at work. But the only thing that really like bashed me on the side of the head was they finally announced Resident Evil, Resident
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake. From what they
Mm.
talked about, um, and I was talking to you before the podcast, is that it literally just says it's gonna move to the PS5. Um, there's no like going to consoles like everywhere kind of thing. It just states it's coming to the PS5. Like, okay. Um, and from what I've read, basically they're going to be changing up the story a little bit. Um, for the most part, it's going to be the same, but
No,
they are
no,
going
you can't. Then it's not Resident Evil 4.
to.
This bullshit.
I think they're changing. I mean, I don't know. I feel a little like, hey, you need to keep like if it's a remake, you need because it's kind of like Final Fantasy VII remake. It's not really a remake. It's more of a reimagining. Um,
Mhm.
and I think Resident Evil 4 remake would be under the same scope. I think they're like, okay, we have these crazy new consoles with fucking solid state drives, and we're not making any for anything of the old consoles. So it's either you have a computer that can run this shit, or you have these crazy ass fucking consoles that can run this shit. So it's like they can do things now that they couldn't do with prior
Before,
consoles.
yeah.
And that's fucking great. And if they're gonna change, yeah, so it says here games being developed to achieve state of the art quality for a survival horror suitable for 2023. While preserving the essence of the original game, we aim to make the game feel familiar to fans of the series while also providing a fresh feeling to it. This being done by reimagining the storyline of the game while keeping the essence of its direction, modernizing the graphics, and updating the controls to a modern standard. I
That
think
just that seems so weird.
well, for me at least, because I've played Final Fantasy VII Remake, it I know it works. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's plenty of people who are like, "Oh, the remake sucks because it's not Final Fantasy VII." It's like, well, no fucking shit. Why would they remake? Why would they
Yeah.
redo the exact same game when you can just play the original game, right?
I
Like
I
if you're gonna
feel
like for me it's like if you're gonna like build a game from the bottom up from like and it's basically like a remake, why wouldn't you make it just better? Right? Or in their terms, more modern. Because in Final Fantasy VII, it's the same state, right? Because this game came out 97, 96 in
yeah.
Japan. It's like there's waste of time if they made it
Mhm.
exactly the same. I wouldn't buy
Oh
it
yeah.
because I would be like, I'm
Wait,
not gonna. What's up?
Resident Evil 4
No. Final
or
Fantasy
Final
Seven.
no,
Sorry,
Final Fantasy 7?
7. Because I wouldn't even pay for that game. The reason being, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go play the original. I already own a
Yeah.
version on my PC. I have a version of it on my PS4, on my PS3. I have the original copy on my PS1. Why would I pay for an exact replica of this game at full price? I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
want something different, right? And and it can give you something that they weren't able to give you in the original version. And I think that's where Resident Evil 4, this aspect, I think this is what's going to be uh, the standard when it comes to a remake because you're going to be changing it a bit, but like for the most part, it's the same story, same shit. It's just like they're giving you a because that's the thing, right? So like, for example, like I told you, I played the original Resident Evil years ago, right? Like decades ago at this point. Um, but I played the remake for the PS4, and
Right.
it was basically the same, except they did add some extra stuff, and it was cool, right? Because like they didn't announce it; they just said, "Hey, Resident Evil remake, here you go." And then you run into these things that you're like, "Wait, this wasn't in the original," and it's
Mhm.
cool. It's nice to see something different and unexpected, and because like you're paying full price for a game that you've already played. Why wouldn't you want something new and fresh, and I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of developers are doing now. Like it's like again, it's that term where people are like, oh, we want an exact replica. Like why would you pay full price for an
Yeah.
exact
Why?
replica? Like, just play the original game. Like, another example's Diablo 2. There's so many people upset about Blizzard kind of wanting to add some things to Diablo 2 remake, the remake, because they're like, oh, we need it to be original and this and that, blah blah blah, and they're just like, because like Blizzard's like, hey, we're gonna be adding, you know, new um uh weapons, new armor, new runes, new this and that, maybe new abilities, and change this and change that, and like change things up because, dude, honestly, Diablo 2 is very stagnant. You know what builds work and you just do
Do
those
that.
builds and they never change. That's why Diablo
Mhm.
3 was a little more um like refreshing because they would change things up every season. Um so when they said this for Diablo 2, a lot of the like OGs for Diablo 2 were upset because like, oh no, we need it to be original, this and that. And everyone's just like, just go fucking play the original then. Like, this is it's not, it's Diablo 2 resurrected. Like, it's not like a complete remastered. They're just like, we're making the original game with better graphics, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean we're going to stick to it. Like, we want to change things up. Like, we're not going to touch the original Diablo 2, right? We're going to leave it
Right.
as is. So if you want to keep playing that, yo, go for it, right? But we want to change things in this game because there's things have gotten stale in the game. We want to change abilities. We want to change, certain aspects of weapons and gears and how things go together. Like, and it's
Mhm.
like Resident Evil 4 is basically doing the same thing, right? Like they're just like it's the exact same, like it's mainly the same game, but you're gonna change it up a bit here and there. Like they'll probably add weapons and maybe like cosmetic stuff, if you really want to do that one. Because I'm fine with like, hey, you want to pay an extra $10 to have Leon in fucking, I don't know, dress as a salmon, like, dude, go for it. That's fine. I'm not gonna pay that much, but that's fine. But like, I think the wording is perfect, like what they said. You know,
Mhm.
reimagining the storyline of the game while keeping the essence of its direction. Like, and modernizing the graphics and updating the controls to a modern standard. Like, yeah, like when you play with the controller, like you mainly have the exact same like every shooter has the exact same button layout, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and uh and it works because you can play different games at different times, and like it's really annoying when like certain games have different button layouts and stuff like that. So like, you know, I think that's great. And then also with like now with like how do you say the there's that like middle button that like you can do. There's just like with the controllers now with the consoles, they're like you can do more things. So I think that's why they're saying they're going to modernize it. It makes sense. And then just like I think reimagining the storyline, I think is a little scary because you're like the first thing you think of is like they're changing the story completely. Like it, I can get behind that because yes, that is a scary thought, right? But again, like if I really wanted to play the original game, I have a copy of it downloaded on my PlayStation 4 and I have a copy of it on PS2. So like I can just go do that. you know? So it's like playing a brand new game that isn't exactly the same sounds amazing. Like
Attractive.
yes, they're attractive. That's a really good term. It sounds very attractive. That I'm like, I'm tempted to really, really look this holiday season to see how the PlayStation 5 supply is. Because I still need to play Final Fantasy 7 on it, the PS5 version, because it looks way better than the PS4 version that I have. And there's the DLC that I still have not played. Um, and it's just, there's this fucking game coming out, and then uh, I'm not the biggest fan of Kingdom Hearts, but Livy is, so she wants to be able to be playing Kingdom Hearts 4.
Go,
Um,
you don't hear me
yeah.
say.
Dude, so when you texted that, dude, I had no idea what it was until like it was like, oh yeah, they can see what we're playing on the PlayStation. I'm like, oh fuck, and it like immediately like I got the melody in my head. I was like, oh god damn it.
Your
um,
inner fucking screamo
yeah.
2000s kid is coming out, is showing.
um,
I I do agree with what you're saying. I I think it's because we're not used to this. Like
you're right. You're right.
like movies get remakes, right? Like because we view this piece of art as important enough to continue, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Like, oh hey, let's make Murder on the Orient Express like for the millionth time, or like let's do fucking Romeo and Juliet, or like
Yeah.
uh let's I don't want to like talk about like Star Wars or shit because that's more of like a franchise, but like we keep remaking stuff in a different way with a new artist.
Yeah.
Um and then we do homages, like there are people who make movies in the vein of other filmmakers or inspired by other filmmakers. Like Tarantino does nothing but that. His
Yeah.
movie is just a compilation of like scenes of other directors. He just uses the N word a lot more.
Yes.
So why can't that necessarily be applied to video games in the same way?
Mm.
Because I'm not saying like why can't we? I just mean like as a rhetorical, because
Right.
it's like
Right.
I do think you have a point. Like if I cherish this game and it came out in 1997 and I play it all the time, why would I necessarily want the exact same game but with better graphics for the same price
Yeah.
or for like a modern day price? Well, if it's a classic, then w- why would you need to change the, the mechanics,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
isn't part of the appeal of playing an older game some of the baggage that comes with clunky gameplay?
Yeah.
Maybe. Uh, and then like with this Resident Evil game, it's like so they're redoing the whole story. They're not just doing like a fresh coat of paint on the graphics and the gameplay. They're essentially making a remake. And I don't
Mhm.
mean see that's they're not just doing a remaster, they're remaking the game,
Yeah.
which I think is interesting because you
Mhm.
don't see that often. Like when I talk about reimaginings or people who take inspiration, the game franchises that I think of are the Shock games,
Okay.
like System Shock, BioShock, um, Prey. Like these are all games that are made because the previous game exists and they wish to create an homage
Right.
because we're making it within the vein of that kind of game. It's not a remake, it's not a copy. It's a kind of game that they do that exemplifies what they loved about that game.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting because we talked about this not on the podcast, but we talked about this before I think with Final Fantasy VII because I don't think Final Fantasy VII, the remake or the remaster, I think it's a remake.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, right? Like
Mhm.
you're making a I wonder how much of it because you wouldn't say like they shouldn't redo. I know I'm going to keep saying Murder on the Orient Express, but it's
That's
not
fine.
like you don't hear people say, "Why would I go see Murder on the Orient Express in theaters for the same price as when I did in like 1990 something
Right.
or 1980 when they came out with it with Albert Finney in the 1970s,
Mhm.
or when they did it with David Suchet in the 2000s for the show, right?
Yeah.
Like you go because you want one, you have a love for the craft of film. You want to see the performances by the new actors. You want to see the camera work by the new director. Um, you go because it's entertaining. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for why you should pay
Right. Right.
market price. I'm just I'm just kind of throwing out my ideas or like what's going on in my head with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
say that about like,
No. Yeah.
oh, this Final Fantasy movie came out in the 90s. Wow, people would be fucking excited if like when did it come out? 2017, 2016. Here's the trailer for the Final Fantasy 7 movie remake. And you're like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
looks really fucking cool. I would go to see that."
Mhm.
And you wouldn't like I'm sure you'd bitch about like not you, but like the general you.
Yeah.
You'd bitch about like, "Oh, fucking ticket prices are kind of going up. That sucks." But you
Right.
wouldn't make an argument like, "Why would I go see this movie for this price if it's just a remake?" Right?
Right.
I guess maybe the amount of time and effort you invest in a video game, uh, the experience you get from playing that video game, as opposed to like, oh man, there's so many avenues that I just keep thinking of as I'm talking. Like,
Mhm.
because people, or at least I can speak for myself for a time, I thought it was a pretty lazy move to just keep selling the same game, but just prettier.
Yeah.
But why isn't that applied to like why is that same level of cynicism applied to game developers who who work pretty hard
Yeah.
um, to make these games, but not for like studios that have been around longer, that have been
Yeah.
churning out more, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not making an argument as to why you necessarily shouldn't say that about a movie, but it's just interesting how not you again, but just in general how that's applied to video games, right? Because I
Yeah.
do think of video games as a form of commercialized art, right? Like
Yes.
it's entertaining, it's artistic, and it sadly has to have a dollar value to create
Mm-hmm.
a profit. You can't just make a video game solely as an artistic expression, as an entertaining expression. There,
Right.
for most of these games, there has to be a dollar incentive behind it. And the same thing goes with movies, but like they're both entertainment, they're both personal entertainment. Why is the that not applied the same way? Why is that not applied evenly?
Mm. Yeah.
Because when I see this game, part of me is like, "Mm, the original was a classic. What's the point, right? Like
Yeah.
this kind of feels like a bit of like I want to say it feels like a cash grab, but it's like they're investing a lot of time and energy into making it look cleaner, making it look a little nicer, more up
Yeah.
to date. They've even said they're even trying to up the quality of the mechanics, the
Mm-hmm.
controls. They're overhauling a bunch of stuff. I remember when I think the first actual remaster came out, uh, or at least the first major one was Halo,
Okay.
the 10-year anniversary remaster, and that game was literally just prettier graphics,
Right. Yeah.
and they charged 59, I think 59.99 for it in 2010 or
Mm.
2011 or something. I can't fucking remember, but I think those are two completely separate instances when I think about them, because when I
Mm-hmm.
go back to Halo Combat Evolved remaster or anniversary or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that feels like a soulless cash grab. That feels like, hey, we're gonna poorly port the original game and add not great graphics to it, but it's gonna look better. And when you switch back to the original game, that's not even going to be the original game, i.e., Gearbox um, poorly imported it. Uh, and the game that you have on Halo Anniversary is not the same level of quality as the game that you would play on an old 2000s Xbox.
Right.
Just a bit of interesting trivia. Um, that's a soulless cash grab, in my opinion. That was a way of being like, hey, let's up the graphics on this and just resell an old classic.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe Resident Evil 4 is actually taking the framework of an old game, but they are putting in the effort to hopefully make a good game, to make good game mechanics and more comfortable controls. And they're obviously not, word for word copying what the game is going to be. They're reimagining the story.
Yeah.
But is that too close to to the original game? Like, as in,
Mm.
should they be making a Resident Evil 4?
Mm. Um. That's an interesting question. Like, I think because they did the original Resident Evil remake. Let me see.
Yeah.
When did they do the original? The Resident Evil remake. Resident Evil remake. Um, came out 2002. No, that doesn't make any sense. Trying to find when the remake came out. HD remastered. Let's see. Not giving me a date. Just give me the original 98.
It's okay,
Oh,
big
sorry,
boy.
2015. 2015.
Okay.
So that's when the HD version came out. Um, The Resident Evil Zero, which was originally on the GameCube, came out in 2016, and then the Resident Evil 2 came out. This one does not tell me the date on it, but this one came out not too long after, like 2018, maybe 2019, maybe even 2020. Let's see. Uh, Resident Evil Remake 2. Yeah, this one. Where can I get the Wikipedia? 2019. There you go. So that came out in 2019. And then Resident Evil 3. Yes, they've already done that many. Came out. This one was the one that 2020. So that one literally came out the year after. So for like back to back games, you can blame the pandemic why Resident Evil 4 maybe will be coming out in 2023. But I
Mm-hmm.
think because Resident Evil 3 really got bad ratings, not a lot of people enjoyed Resident Evil 3. Um, I haven't heard anybody really compliment Resident Evil 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but 4 is a classic when it comes to that era of video games. Like Resident Evil 4 is up there and talked about by many people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so,
It revitalized the franchise.
oh yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine them sitting down and being like, okay, Resident Evil 2 is a like like when it comes to the first 3 games with the I think they call it the tank controls, where the camera angle would be one way, and then once you reach a
Mm-hmm.
certain area it would shift to a completely different way. Um uh it's Resident Evil 2 hands down was the favorite. Um and then you're right, when Resident Evil 4 came out, it just revitalized the, because people were kind of, 3 was like, okay, this is not what we want, like it went a certain direction that no one, like, people played it, people enjoyed it, but it was not like, it wasn't what Resident Evil the first one was, and it wasn't what Resident Evil 2 was. And so they kind of like, when they were going the third person view, it was a huge success. So they know, like, okay,
Oh
this
yeah, over the
became
shoulder
like,
stuff.
yeah, this Resident Evil 4 became like the game when everyone talked about Resident Evil. It wasn't about the original. And 2 is still up there, but 4 was the game that everyone talked about. And so I can imagine them sitting down and being like, okay, like, we're gonna do it. Like I already knew this was coming. I knew they were gonna make a remake for Resident Evil 4. It was just in the matter of when, and they
Mhm.
even gave us a release date, which is awesome. But it's one of those where they sat down and said, we need to make sure this game goes well, because the the um the layout there, the blueprint for a great game is already there. We already did it. It's just,
Yeah,
how do we not fuck it up?
yeah.
That's question number one, right? And two is, how do we reimagine it? What are we bringing into it that they're not playing the exact same game, right?
Question though,
Yes.
is the same company that made all of these games making this one?
Capcom, yes.
So I have another layer to it. Should you leave your old work be?
Hmm.
Like
Well, okay, so,
there's a perfect example of in my opinion,
mhm,
Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now I think is a classic.
yes.
Um it's probably one of the one of the best movies of its time.
Mhm.
And then uh they did Jesus. They did the I think the Redux or the Redo,
Okay, yeah,
which
yeah.
is it's the game or it's the game. It's the movie that the guy wanted to make, right? It's the
Mhm.
movie that Francis Ford Coppola like spent all this time filming. Like it's nearly 4 hours long. The the original uh theatrical version was like
Mhm.
2 hours or something. I can't quite remember. It was already a long movie, but it was a tight film for what
Yeah.
it was. And it's perfect in almost every way.
Mhm.
Francis Ford Coppola, the guy who made the movie,
Yeah.
released Redo or Redux, which
Mm.
is the his vision of what it is, his desire to improve uh the movie already. And it's awful. It ruins the pace. There's a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff in it.
Mhm.
Um so of course like oh fucking Blade Runner. Blade Runner is a perfect example.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
How many remakes does that movie have from, mind you, Ridley Scott, the guy who created it? Um, what about Kingdom of Heaven? The theatrical version of that was pretty bad, but the director's cut was good.
Mm.
He re-released it with new footage. So, should should you leave your original work alone? Is there value in just letting it be and maybe letting another company do it? What? Because
The
see, I think if another company did it, I think that would be valid. But
yeah.
it feels, I get this feeling. I get the Apocalypse Now feeling when
Mhm.
I find that Capcom is just taking all of this stuff that they had and saying, "Well, it's out of date. We need to update it."
Right, right, right.
Right? Like Apocalypse Now. This movie was perfect back then. No, I think it's a pretty great war movie still. There's no need to improve it. It's a
Mhm.
period piece of its time.
Yeah.
Redoing it, not redoing it as in like a remake, but taking it as the movie that it was made and adding stuff and fixing it up and putting a brand new finish on it isn't necessary. And I think it can hurt the image of what it was too.
Right.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the only thing I would say is not that.
Nice. Oh, geez, Rick.
The thing that I would say is that in the film industry and in the video game industry, depending on the the product that came out, there are sometimes examples that is like, I think, again, going back to Final Fantasy 7, because that is a game that I've played for so long, and I've played the remake. There are things that were basically not done or
Mm,
skipped because of the hardware limitations, right?
right.
The whole reason why the remake of Final Fantasy 7 is all based on the original location where how do you say like in the original 7, um you're in that area of Midgar for maybe a couple, like, depending, right? I'm there for like maybe a couple hours at most. But
Hmm.
most people, new to the game will probably be there for 5 to 7 hours, you know, going through everything and checking stuff and whatever. Um, and then that's it. And then the rest of the game, your other, you know, 50 plus hours are going to be in a completely different area. You
Yeah.
go back to Midgard for a little bit later on, but the beginning time, you're not there very long. But the creators were like, we wanted to be there much longer. We had so much stuff to do. We had so much stuff to tell, but we have a massive game, you know? That was the thing.
Yeah.
We have a massive game. And I mean, they already had to break up the game into three different discs. So they're like,
Yeah.
okay, we have to cut a lot of stuff off. Where with this remake, they're like, well, we can tell a full story. You know, we're not limit like, back then it was like, yo, you have a story, you gotta tell it, and that's it. Final Fantasies are like, it's a one and done. It's not like, okay, you can make a sequel later on. It's like, nope, you have one story to
It's
tell.
literally the Final Fantasy.
Exactly. And so with this one, they're like, okay, well, we can tell the full story that we, you know, wanted to tell because the original creator was like, I replayed through Final Fantasy 7 and I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff missing. What happened? And then he's like, I
Hmm.
remember that we had to cut it all because we couldn't spend too much time in this town because we had we had the rest of the story to tell. So
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? So worth like in cinema, it's like there are certain movies that stand the test of time where it's like, man, their graphics fucking look dope as shit, or the practical effects were fucking top notch, and they don't need a remake. They don't need to be touched on, right? But I do agree that there may be some films that people were like, you know what? It might have been better if we did this, or man, we
Yeah.
could have polished this off a little more. You know, um, like I say
But should that
the
necessarily be something that has to change? Like, why
mm,
can't it just be a new game that has that quality that you get to make? Why does it have to, like, I get like developers are different. There are more people working on something and more people with a say, but like,
mm-hmm,
why not just make a new game where you can explore a Midgard like area instead of like, why not just accept that like the art that you made is still really good and like
mm,
say like, hey, I wanted to do this, but we had limitations. I was looking up something for fucking uh Deus Ex. They wanted to have this whole bit. There's there's a New York City map, kind of like how you were talking with Midgard,
yeah,
um, where they're like, oh, we wanted a huge portion of the city, but we just didn't have the technical capabilities for it. I think the area that they made was fucking amazing, and I'm sure like the amount of time that you put in Midgard is
yeah,
still fucking amazing.
mm-hmm,
So it's like I'm not saying that you know our consumer fan like opinions invalidate that, but I do think when it comes to making some kind of art, sometimes you do need to step back and realize like, hey, I don't have the ability to do this, or there's some kind of limitations or
yeah,
constraints. Why not I just try to deliver the best possible thing I can? There's always this like there's this growing need to like reinvent your art,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
which I don't understand. Like I understand like someone else wanting to emulate that art, but I don't understand like the artist reinventing their same art, right?
okay, yeah,
I think that's where I'm coming from because
yeah,
most of these remakes or reimagines or remasters are all coming from the same developer,
yeah,
right?
mm-hmm,
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of this too. I really love fucking Spyro. Reignited trilogy
mm-hmm,
looks great. I fucking love it. I don't have a PlayStation to play it, so I played on that. I love the Crash Reignited trilogy, or the
yeah,
Crash. What you get the idea. I
yep,
fucking love them. I play them remastered. I don't have a PlayStation to play them on. I play them on my Xbox.
yeah,
But like, I hear like, oh, we want to re-envision this game that we made. I don't know. I'm probably just
Eh,
being nitpicky or silly about it.
Yeah, no, you're good. Like you have a good point, right? Um, like I get it. I really do. Um, and you're right in some instances because it does like sometimes it goes bad and it just doesn't like I was gonna give an example of like the Star Wars when they started adding things to the original trilogy.
Ex- no, exactly.
Eh,
You're on point with that. I That's a perfect example that I didn't even think of.
Yeah. Like that did not go well. you know? Um
Because
like
it's an example of someone just like, we get it. There are limitations at the time when you made this piece of art.
yeah. But
And I don't mean it like Star Wars. I just mean I do think, one, he it was an artistic film,
yeah.
and it was, I think, artistically speaking, a very impressive film. But it's like, I was alive, haunts me sometimes. I was alive at a point where the only Star Wars I was able to actually see is the 1997 remaster,
Mhm.
which means I've never technically seen the original Star Wars in
Right.
any of their forms. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I've never seen the
Yeah.
original theatrical version of it.
Mhm.
And what makes it even more pissy is that Steve George Lucas has actually not restricted, but has made it harder to purchase these versions of that movie.
Oh wow.
That's the thing. Like, at least with the Halo game, you could press the back button and you're playing the equivalent of the Microsoft Xbox 2001 version.
Right.
But the he he keeps changing these movies and then makes the newer iteration far more accessible to watch and to see and to view on television, and makes it harder for people to buy the older versions. Like, I'm
Okay.
perfectly fine with the 97 version. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I haven't seen all of Star Wars or the original Star Wars movies in their original condition. But, like, I'm fine with those. I can't find them. You can't just buy them. It's not
Uh,
like a collector's set where it's like, "Oh, here, we're also selling this version," or "We're selling the 2004 version right before Revenge of the Sith." No, it's, "Here's the newest version where we changed Obi-Wan screaming differently and the Ewok's eyes move, and fucking you have a bunch of CGI people dancing in the background." You can't get the other versions, at least easily, because they're not being sold. Like, I get, like, it's an older product, yada yada, but Lucas is making an effort to constantly reinvent the thing that he made. It's not, I'm going to make something new. It's, I have to reinvent the one thing. And I'm going to make it hard for people to enjoy my older versions of this work.
right.
And that is part of what motivates my skepticism with some of the stuff that's going on.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I can
I
get
don't know what I'm saying.
No, no, no,
Totally long winded.
I get it. Um I guess for me with like I've seen both ends, right? Where like there could be bad, you know? But I think the difference for me is more of like with what 4 is coming out and saying and what 7 did, where they really did reimagine the older games. They're telling it differently, not in a sense of like as an overall arc. Like there's it's still like point A to point B is like still the same, right? Where you start, and where you end is going to be the exact same. It's just the in
Yeah.
between may be a little different, you know, because there may have like I don't remember the full plot of Resident Evil 4, but there may have
Mhm.
been some plot holes there that they're like, oh yeah, we didn't think about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they might be like, let's fix that. You know what I mean? Or they're just gonna add some things that we're like, because like again, so in Resident Evil Remake, they added a character in certain little areas that weren't in the original, but that character in those areas, lore wise, were
Mhm.
technically always supposed to be there. It's
Mm.
just they were added after like the fact. Um
Right.
and so seeing this character in these extra areas in the remake was like a lot of the people who grew up constantly playing the original were like, "Oh wow, that's awesome." You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like seeing that possibly being brought into Resident Evil 4 would be cool because like there are story arcs that you know maybe post Resident Evil 4, or they didn't really think about putting it, or like I said with Final Fantasy 7, they just had to cut because they're like, okay, we can only put
Yeah.
so much game into this disc that we're limited to. You know what I mean? You got to think about they had to make this game for the PS2, the original Xbox, maybe. I don't recall,
I
but
thought it was
definitely
GameCube.
in GameCube and PS2 for sure. So like they had to make this game work for those consoles, you know. So they're like now that they're not limited to that, they're not limited to the hardware. It's like we can add more to this game that we always wanted to, but we couldn't because of the hardware, limitation.
Yeah.
So they can add extra like little puzzles, add extra areas that you can do stuff in, and just go into detail with certain things, and maybe go into detail about the world that you're being a part of, and that maybe they couldn't completely have, where like I don't
Yeah.
know, just stuff like that. I think like is great. If they change a little bit of the story, I think it's fine, because at the end of the day, point A to point B is always going to be the same. It's just how do you get there, and if
Mhm.
it's going to be changed a little bit, that's fucking great, because again, for me, playing the original Final Fantasy 7 and then playing the remake, it's just like I'm glad it's not the exact same fucking thing. Like I want
Yeah.
something different, so
And that's admirable.
mm,
I think
yeah,
that that is something that you should strive for,
yeah.
and I think that's something that developers should strive for.
And I think that's what's different between, at least like with games like this. Like Final Fantasy 7 is a really big game. So Final Fantasy Remake was a really big deal. And I think they fucking knocked it out of the park. Um
Mhm.
and I think Resident Evil 4 is in the same boat. It's a huge deal, and I have faith that they're going to knock it out of the park. Um um but um I like the difference, I think, is that like it's not like a Call of Duty, right? Like they I think a good example is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare um remastered. That was literally just it was a remastered. Like they just upgraded the graphics, and they added,
Yep.
and in the multiplayer aspect, they did add things to it that was more modern. Like it wasn't like the original, they added things to it, and personally I wasn't the biggest fan of, because like I'm down to play the original Modern Warfare games multiplayer exactly the same, but in better graphics.
That's
Um,
why I just want backwards compatibility.
yeah,
Just let
th-
me be able to play
yeah.
the old games
Y-
untouched.
There's, I was reading about that. There's some issues with that, but
Yeah,
I'll go into that for later. But with like Modern Warfare, like I think the difference is that they're multiplayer games, right? Um, the big issue for me is I can always go back and play Modern Warfare 2, whether it's on console or PC. The problem is the the hype that was behind these games is gone, long gone,
yeah,
right? The only people that are left behind are hackers or people that are way too good at the game, right?
hmm,
Um, so it's like that nostalgia and that hype is gone of like a bunch of people playing Call of Duty, right? Everyone's playing the new Call of Duty, everyone's playing Warzone and stuff like that. Like for me, it's more about like that nostalgia of like playing against people who aren't really, you know, aren't really good at the
good.
game. Yeah, and they're just there
I know
having
you're
fun.
saying. Yeah,
And like being able to get into a lobby instantly. Where like now it's like you would sit there and wait and wait and wait and you might not ever be in a lobby because
hmm.
or if you do get into the lobby, it's hacked. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those where it's like the
And all the
the
fun is
the community's gone, right? And then remaking it would only bring back that community because it would be the most recent Call of Duty and a bunch of people are playing it. And you're just playing the game that you played, basically at this point over a decade ago, just in better graphics with, everyone playing it. So you get to replay it and everything. Um but like for me it's like I would literally want a carbon copy of Modern Warfare 2 and just better graphics. And I think that's a big no because I'm one of the very few people who would pay the full $60 to be able to play Modern Warfare 2 with better graphics exactly the same. Um but at the same time, like the only thing that I really want is not a carbon copy of it. I want to have the community back of people playing that
right
game. And I think that's
because
the
it's not just the game.
exactly, right? And I think that's what happened with Halo, right? Like the community was brought back into Halo remastered, right? Like
Hmm.
because who was playing who at that point was playing the original Halo at that point when everyone has moved on to either Halo 2 or the whatever was out at the time, right? Cuz like so when they basically HD versioned the original Halo, it's like it's just bringing the community back. Like yeah, it was nice to have it HD'd and everything like but in reality, it's just being able to play the multiplayer with the community again. And
Yeah,
I think that's what differentiates like what I want of Modern Warfare 2 remastered and what I would want from like Resident Evil 4, where it's like you know what you're getting with Resident Evil 4 because it's like you're playing by yourself. It's a single player game. Like if you want to replay it so bad, just play the original game where it's going to be exactly how you played it, you know, fuck, when did Resident Evil 4 came out? Like almost 2 decades ago.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I think that's the difference with like for me where like I get where people want carbon copies, but it's like it's there's no like yeah, it's nice, but it's like, oh man, I just spent 60 and with the new consoles, they're $70 now. So it's like you're spending $70 on a literal carbon copy game of one that you already own, you know? So it's like I would feel bad for myself
yeah.
afterwards, I would be part of the hype, but at the end of the day, I'd be like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like I would know that like it wasn't worth it. Like I shouldn't have spent all that money on the game that I can just play with my friends occasionally.
Don't worry. I'll get you a fucking remaster. I'll pay for it.
But I don't know. That's just one of my things where it's like I don't know. Like I get the bad, right? Star Wars example. Um, Same thing with Call of Duty 4. You know, I a lot of people love the remastered, but a lot of those people are people who play the shit out of Call of Duty 4, the original. So it's like, you know, there's that, right? Like it's very biased. Um,
Hmm.
and same thing with and then I can see the other side with Final Fantasy 7, you know. And I feel like there's something else that came up recently. Trying to think. Um, I know there's another remaster out there that's similar, where it's just like it's not a carbon copy, just a like a reimagination of the original game wise. Movie wise, the only one that I can think of is the Rob Zombie movies of like Halloween. Um,
Hmm.
like it's cool. It's his own style, you know. It's not really a slasher film. It's more of a I don't know how to describe it. I think it's just way
It's called
more like it's what?
it's called trash.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just it's more brutal. Like it's more gory. And like I get that maybe some people are into that, but
You don't get it, Harry. Gore equals more.
yeah, I guess so.
No.
Yeah. But for me, it's just like I don't know, and that's a good example of like reimagination too, right? Like it's not like Star Wars where like they're adding things to the film itself, but like it's a little
That's just classic. That's just a classic remake.
yeah, it is,
Like
and
that was the what we were talking about before, where that was in that era, right before people started using like uh requels and legacy sequels,
yes,
right? Where it's like they're set in the same universe. You got the old actors from the previous movies to
mm-hmm,
kind of rope people in with, new people at the same time.
yes,
So,
yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those where I'm like, I know I'm excited for Resident Evil 4, and what they're gonna bring. Being able to see it all in like really high def graphics is gonna be awesome. Um, I would want to play it on a PS5 only because of trophies, and that's just the way it is for me. But um, I wouldn't mind just getting it on the PC and just being able to play it because it looks good. Like just the
oh
small the small trailers of it, and yeah, I'm excited. I know this would turn into a
yeah, it
long
looks
fucking talk, but um, yeah. I mean, what we just discussed in this past probably fucking hour, um, of like reimaginations and remakes, you know, is an interesting topic because everyone has their own opinions, right? Depending on the game. Um, like I think, and I just completely it just brought came up to my mind. Fucking Shadow of the Colossus was a
hmm
literal fucking carbon copy. Oh, actually, not really. It was like 99% carbon copy, but they did add extra stuff
they did.
to it in the PS4 version, which we still need to finish.
We really do. I'm
I
so ashamed that I haven't
I
finished it
I
yet.
I still have it saved on my PlayStation, so at some point we're gonna need to meet up and finish that shit. But
Fuck yeah.
that is another example of a basically one for one copy, you know. And then they just add. I think that's a great example of what they did with Resident Evil Zero. Basically the same. It's just
Hmm.
like little things sprinkled in there, and that you're just like, oh fuck, that's awesome. Like, you know, whatever. Like, you know, because I think the video I showed you about it, where they're like, you know, people were like speculating all this stuff in the original one, and it really there wasn't anything. And then in the remake, they're like, well, here you go, you got it. You know, like, and I think that's fucking awesome, right? I think that's a good example of like the developers being like, hey, this game's fucking beautiful. It's fucking amazing. It's a
It looks
classic.
absolutely great.
Yes, and we want to give it to you in an even better like graphics, because like we gave you like the best we could back in the day and it looked amazing, but we know we can make it look even better. And I think that's what the community wanted. You know what I mean? Because the people like they had the PS2 version, they had the PS3 version, and they came out with the PS4 version where they built it top to bottom. They just rebuilt the whole game. And that's what the people wanted, right? They're like, dude, yes, we want like not an HD version of like the original game, but like a actual remake, a remastered, you know, version of it.
Mhm.
And the developers adding those extra things to it, was I think fucking awesome. And I think that's kind of
And
like,
that's a different company though too
mm, was it?
that was doing that.
Oh wow,
They
okay,
remastered and then they added a couple extra features. So I don't know. I don't know where
where you
I'm
stand,
just
right? Yeah, I think it depends, like you said, right? It's a different company, right? So I think it depends on who's making the remastered or the remake, and the intentions behind it, right? Like, are they like just doing it for the money? Like, hey, you, like I used to always say, because of the original Final Fantasy VII, the original director would always say, this game is perfect. Why would I want to remake it? Right?
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for me to remake it. And that always stuck to me. Like, he's right. This game is fucking perfect. There's no reason to remake it. Like, there's nothing wrong with this game. Like, this game is awesome.
Even
Let's.
if it's old, even if it feels outdated, like
Mm-hmm, absolutely
there's
right.
nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Perfect
and
for it.
and so and that always stuck to me. And I always said the only reason they'll remake Final Fantasy VII is when they need to make money.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and I don't know if that was the case. But for sure, what they did with it was great. So like, I don't know if they're like, hey, fucking 15 was awful. We need to fucking do something about this. Because definitely post 13 nothing was really going well. Final Fantasy 14 came out, and it's an online game, so
Final Fantasy VIII was really a gem.
excuse me. But yeah, that's something that I always said, right? Like, they're gonna remake Final Fantasy 7 remake, only to make money. But
Mhm.
whether that was the case or not, like I said before, they knocked it out of the park. It was a brilliantly, like, they spent so long to finally release it. I think it was like 5 years since their announcement of like, here's a trailer of what we're gonna come out with, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was in tears when I fucking saw it. I was like, holy shit, they're doing it. Like, it was out of the blue when they announced it too. So it's like, and they spent 5 years making it since that announcement. So they were already working on it, and they're just like, still spent 5 years making it. And they delayed it like a month from the original release date. Um, and yeah, it was fucking, so like the intentions behind it, right? Like, Resident Evil 4 Remake, what is the intention behind it? Shadow of the Colossus, right? What was the intention behind it? I think a company just really wanted to make Shadow of the Colossus again and make it look beautiful and add little things
Oh
that the
yeah,
community wants, like hey, those secrets you're all fucking jabbering about? They're
more
real.
of them.
Yeah, like there's more of them and they're actually real. So like I don't know. It's just one of those like what are the intentions behind it? And I hope from what I've played with Resident Evil Remake, the first one, and what I've seen of Resident Evil 2, um, gives me good hopes. But from what I've heard of Resident Evil 3, which is, I don't know, it's because Resident Evil 3 was a more action packed game,
Hmm.
um, compared to like Resident Evil 1 and 2. It doesn't, it makes sense to me why Resident Evil 3 Remake wasn't that great because it's like you're forced to go the route of what the original was and kind of like continue it, you know? So it's kind of, weird in that way. So, but I
Hmm.
have high hopes of Resident Evil 4 because again, like I said at the very beginning, they have a blueprint that works. They just have to not fuck it up.
Yeah. Fuck
That's
yeah.
my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
I'll fucking put a couple bucks in there. God damn. Harry, we've been talking for 3 hours.
Have we? I think you're right.
Just about.
Oh yeah. Yep. 2 hours and 50 minutes. God damn. We're maniacs.
It was all you.
Yeah, it really was.
I'm teasing. I'm fun with you. Folks, if you like our content, please stop committing school shootings. No, ladies and gentlemen, if you like the content, please, by all means, hit us up on YouTube at Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. You can also tell us how bad that joke was by going on to our Gmail. You can message us at hittingthemark2020 at gmail.com. And if you want to follow us for our razor sharp minute by minute interpretations of video games, movies, life. No, just
Mm-hmm.
kidding. I like funny videos and sentences and statements on Twitter. You can hit us up on Twitter with capital H, capital T, capital M underscore podcast. It's one more time, HTM underscore podcast. Folks, you have a wonderful night.
Bye bye.
Auf Wiederhol, Assen.